Still 7 o'clock. My watch. Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All righty, thanks, everybody. The documents open here, the only one I don't have is the agenda, and we'll go to it. All right, well, let me just say it's fantastic to be here in the same country during the meeting that Valley into London. Thank you guys for not going too long last week. That would have made for a terrible week. So just to be able to kind of continue on with budget presentations from the agenda perspective. So we're going to start off with liaison reports. I'm anticipating that to go pretty quickly, considering we just met a week ago and nothing else has happened. Then budget presentations from, and I heard some negotiating as far as the order. It might not be fire, police, and public health. It may not be in that order, but we'll see. And then we'll let Fidel do his message and then summary. And then we get to discuss and vote on the budget and annual town meeting warrant articles. The last agenda item that I had on here is on every annual town meeting, the chair does a FinCom report to town meeting. And I figured it might be better if I actually got some feedback from the rest of the committee instead of me just making up stuff on my own. So definitely be nice to have you guys give me some bullets as far as things that you think I should highlight or omit. And then we'll approve meeting minutes and then we'll be out of here by 8:30. Which is not going to be true. So Jeffries had reached out to Gene and I, said he's going to be a little bit late, so we will, and he's going to be here in person because he brought it up last time too. So we'll be able to fly through the voting process. So that's where we are. Any questions on the agenda? None appearing. I'm trying to get better at this chair stuff. After Gene's cast a shadow. So we'll start with liaison reports. Just kind of open forum. Anybody have anything?
Rec had a meeting. I'm sorry, Rec had a meeting, and then the Chronicle misreported it, so there's chaos.
Oh, nice.
No financial
Ooh,
implications.
do tell. I'm a huge fan of chaos. Let's go.
It's a huge misrepresentation.
Absolutely. So the basically they had a pickleball on the agenda as they do every month, and there was going to be talk of whether it was appropriate to start building or relining Sturgis and Washington with pickleball courts, and the rec committee tabled it, but the Chronicle said that the select board is ready to plow ahead and build pickleball courts in Sturgis and Washington parks, which is not true. So,
I'm going to start with the Chronicle on this one.
yeah.
That sounds good. No,
So, but for financial implications, there's, they're tabling pickleball stuff, so there was, stuff there.
what will we talk about in the rec meetings then if we're tabling pickleball?
We'll just talk about it next month.
There we go. Okay, no, only for one meeting. I thought it might have been tabled indefinitely. Anything else from anybody liaison report wise? Actually, the only thing that I have, I don't have a liaison report, but just a heads up. The Killam School Building Committee is next Monday. It'll be the first one that I attend as a member, but that's yeah, I think they're fine. So that's next Monday for anyone that wants to join or listen in. And I actually I think there's a pretty full week next week. I think there's a select board meeting. I think there might be a school committee meeting tomorrow. But within the next week, there's, we're going to get all the highlights. So just keep an eye out for the calendar. Cool. All right. So then we are good on liaison reports. We will now move over to the last leg of budget presentations. Some say it's the best leg. I don't. That's to be determined. We had a good set of presentations last time. So we'll open it up. I don't know if Fidel is going to go. I don't know if it's
He burns.
So we are going in order. All right, so Chief
You are.
Burns, excellent. Welcome, Chief. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. So the fire department's budget, I thought I'd begin with just a little bit about what we do. The fire department is responsible for 4 major functions: fire suppression, fire prevention, the emergency medical system, and emergency management. We have 51 uniformed personnel. 48 of them are their primary focus is on emergency response and routine fire inspections. 3 of us do the administrative functions, and then we also respond to the larger emergencies. So we have 4 groups of 12 firefighters. Each group has a captain and a lieutenant on it, on each group, and 10 firefighters. Each day, the shift staffs 2 engines, a ladder truck, and an ambulance. And so to make sure that we have enough people to operate the equipment and do what we need to do, we have a minimum staffing level of 10 people. So we're not proposing any changes in the number of personnel in the department. So the budget highlights, our expense budget is gone down 0.3%. And that's because we have less new firefighters for the next fiscal year coming in. We are going through a turnover period where we've been bringing in a lot of new people over the last few years, and we've been very fortunate. We've got really, really good people. So we're outfitting 2 new people instead of 3, so there's a savings there. We have an increase in one of the line items for our medical director. Our medical director is Dr. Walker, who's a physician at Melrose Wakefield Hospital, and his fee is going to go up. His for the service he provides to us is quite small. He is just a fantastic physician. He actually comes out to the fire department, meets with the groups a few times a year, and goes over our run reports, and so it's amazing. Our total budget increase is 4.8%. Our wages are up 5.1%. That's driven by a few things: paying class study for non-union personnel, and also the union personnel moving through the STEP system. The other major change is I'm requesting to promote 4 firefighters to lieutenants, to increase the number of lieutenants we have. And the reason for it, currently our shift commander is assigned to an engine company. So that person has supervision responsibilities, incident command responsibilities at an emergency scene, but is also responsible for the entire town. So when that person's assigned to an engine, if there's an incident over the west side of town or up on the highway, it limits their flexibility to go there, because we've now taken all our fire resources to that particular area of town, and we've tied up more equipment than we need. The other thing that we're seeing is larger residential buildings, and it's very important when we have a fire in a large building, or any building for that matter, that we have a good, solid incident command system. And to have the captain be responsible for pulling hose or making a connection to a hydrant down the street, which can happen in a current model, it's just setting us up for a failure. So we're seeing communities around us. Wakefield went to this model maybe about 12 years ago. It's been successful for them. Woburn's been doing it for a number of years. Burlington is doing it. Stoneham has moved to this model. So we're kind of late to it. We're a busy department. You see our runs, they're going up. You see some of the major fires that we've had. And it's critical those first 15 or 20 minutes to have your incident commander to be able to focus on the emergency and not some of the other functions. It's just critical. So that's the reason for it. So that increase is a $60,000 increase to the budget, but it allows us to move that person to a car off the engine and replace it with a supervisor.
Yep.
That's the concept.
Chief, can I just stop you? Anyone, any questions to this point for the chief? Go ahead, Gene.
You may have said it and I didn't hear it. So how many lieutenants did we have and how many will we have?
We have 4. We will have, under this model, we would have 8. So
Thank you.
currently, the captain is assigned to the fire station on Main Street. The lieutenant is at the station on Woburn Street. So that station does all our mutual aid responses and does most of the responses to highway. So there's a lot of times, a lot of calls. So what we would do with each group would have 2 lieutenants on it, and that new lieutenant would be downtown on the engine company.
Thank you.
And generally, fire departments, they have an officer on each truck. Like they have an officer also on the ladder truck as well. So generally, the model would be to have 4 more lieutenants, but I'm just asking to remove that captain and replace him with a lieutenant.
Just a question on the budget, on overtime. It's way down from the actual from 22 and 21, quite a bit. So what's happening there?
So the overtime is down this year. Our year-to-date expenditures has gone down a little bit. So you're seeing the actual, the 732, that's our actual expenditures. We had a number of people that were out injured, and we were shorthanded because people were going through the retirement process. We had 2 injured firefighters who just retired last week.
Yeah.
So and we've replaced them with new firefighters. So by getting our shift strength up to where it should be, getting them through the academy and replacing them, that's resulted in
realistic.
more overtime. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna be, we might be a little over in the overtime budget this year, but not to the extent where it has been in past years. So our emergency medical system is very busy. One of the things I say a lot of these presentations, we have a very robust EMS system. Every one of our fire trucks that's in service, our 2 engines and our ladder truck, they're registered as a Class 5 ambulance. So we carry all ALS medications, defibrillator monitor, so it allows them to use medications. 2 of our engines have storage facilities on the trucks that keep the medications in temperature control compartment. And so that allows us, what we're seeing is our EMS system become busier. We're responding to other communities because the EMS system is stressed. And that allows us to give ALS quality care when our ambulance is at the hospital or treating another patient. So it gives us a lot of depth that no community around us has. No community has the level of equipment and the training that our people have that surrounds us or anywhere near that I'm aware of. I know there's 1 or 2 communities that have maybe 1 Class 5 ambulance in service, but we do all of ours. So it doesn't matter who arrives, that medication and trained firefighters, paramedics are there to treat that patient. And it has resulted in them being able to save somebody's life when they're in cardiac arrest. So it's quite a system. I'm very proud of it and very proud of our firefighters for being able to offer that level of service. Some of the other highlights here.
So Chief, on that one, I think I might know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyways. Is that, because we have that ability, does that change how, calls that we'll respond to because of that? Or is it just, we have that skill set and it's there. It doesn't necessarily, we don't get called more frequently or in different situations because of it. It's a chicken egg.
Sometimes we'll be asked to respond mutually because they are advanced life support. The other community may not they might use a private provider.
Okay.
That they don't have a ALS level truck available. Like Wilmington is not ALS. They rely on a private provider. Reuben relies on a private provider.
Okay.
So does Stoneham and so does Wakefield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Only on our borders that does advanced life support is Linfield and North Reading.
Okay.
So
So we would get, calls.
yeah,
because
sometimes we need to intercept them, meet them.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Let's see. I didn't want to bore you with my whole presentation, but we do have some grants in progress. We just finished up a state grant for just over $18,000. That allowed us just to fix some of our radio equipment located with the police department that had failed. We get 2 grants for fire safety education, just over $5,000 for the school-based SAFE program. We use a trailer that we house for our fire district called Metro Fire, and we take that to the elementary schools, and we do kindergarten through 2nd grade with that. It's a fantastic tool for them. And then we have the Senior Safe program. One of our lieutenants heads that up as well. And that's for our elderly population, helping them stay safe, avoid issues in the home like cooking, fires, helping them to smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and just educational programs, safety programs, fall prevention, things like that. We have a $19,000 firefighter safety equipment grant in progress. We're about halfway through spending those resources for protective clothing and some other equipment. And then we have a $6,500 federal fiscal year grant. We're going to use a little bit for training and for emergency shelter supplies. Assistant Chief Tony Delsignon. So that's essentially kind of the highlights of the budget. And when you look at the expenses, the ambulance services, that line item is going up 28%, but it's an increase of $6,000. Yeah. And that's for our medical director. And the lieutenant's line item is up, and that's because of the four additional lieutenants. Any questions? Bill?
Any questions? I'll start by, go ahead, Joe.
What happened to like the fire truck? Like I call it Hope and Ladder, but I know there's a more updated name for that, right?
The new ladder truck? that we
Yeah, has that
purchased?
been delivered or?
No.
Okay.
So that had a 550-day delivery time, and that starts from when we finish the pre-construction conference. We have to meet with their engineering. We did it via Zoom, and met with engineering. They go through, where do you want this located, where do you want that located, switches, things like that. It's an all-day process. And then they send back documentation to us. Once that's signed, it's 550 days from that. It's supposed to be at the end of November of this year when it's delivered. They are running behind. And they're having trouble getting equipment. The manufacturers, we're having trouble getting, we have a new ambulance that we're trying to purchase as well. And the manufacturers are having trouble getting basic parts to build the truck. The fire truck manufacturers having a hard time getting axles for the trucks. There's 2 manufacturers for axles, they couldn't get the axles. The ambulance company, we use a commercial chassis. This one's going to be a Dodge. They were having trouble getting radiators, and then the Ford, Chevy, and Dodge would only make so many trucks that were set up to be ambulances, and the 2023 ambulances were all gone, so we're in line for 2024. I've never seen this in my career, how hard it is to get equipment, and then the pricing is just going insane, so we're having these long lead times, and then skyrocketing prices.
But the price, like that price adjustment that you got hit with before, that's locked in, right?
It should be. Yeah, I've heard.
Oh, but
I've
there's
heard
still a
horror
chance that
stories
they could
about
come
the
back. Okay.
manufacturers asking for more. So,
Okay.
I just never seen anything like this.
But we're okay with the current one.
I hope so.
No, I don't want to jinx it,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I'm just,
I wish I could say guaranteed yes. I honestly don't know.
what's the salvage value of that? Is
Of
it
the
pre-
current one?
Yeah,
It should have considerable value. You know, there are, when municipalities sell equipment, they don't always get a lot of money. Like I am not gonna sell it. Our purchasing person's gonna advertise it and it's gonna go by a bid. And, you know, a lot of times communities don't get a lot of money in that bid type process. But, you know, where it's hard for municipalities to get trucks now in, you know, smaller communities where they might only use that ladder truck a few times a year, that could have some real significant value. You know, to purchase one's $1 million, you know, something like that could have some significant value for them, you know.
Okay.
Or another community may want something like that as a spare. But the way it gets sold, I don't know what that number's gonna be.
good, okay. And totally random, but you know, the Buffalo Bills player, like CPR is a big topic right now. And
Yeah.
does the fire department still offer CPR classes? I know years ago I took one there, but
They do occasional classes. Yes, we have a couple of firefighters that do it. With COVID, they stepped back from that, but it's something that we need to talk to them about doing again. It's a good program to have because it makes a big difference. You know, somebody sees somebody in cardiac arrest and is trained, they can make a big difference.
thank you. Yeah.
You will.
Any other questions for Chief?
Yeah, actually, it says that you had 2 engines, a ladder truck, and 1 ambulance that's typically staffed. My sense is that the ambulance calls are more frequent. Would it make sense to have 2 ambulances? Is the gas mileage and the, buying an ambulance cheaper than the putting the wear and tear on the ladder truck or the engines?
Well, we need to send a ladder truck or an engine with them because to move the equipment into the home and to help move the patient out of the home. Because we have to carry those people out. And it's heavy, it's awkward. So if you try to do it with 2 people, you're gonna really hurt your people very quickly. So it's cheaper, more cost effective to send a truck with them. But we are seeing ambulance calls increase, and there will be a time when we're gonna have to have another ambulance in service, run 2 ambulances. And we always look at those numbers, and the way I envision it would happen is we would do a phased system over, you put an ambulance in during the peak hours. And when you look at our activity, the peak hours are from about 6:30 in the morning to about 7:30 at night, where we have the most calls. We have them throughout the day, but that's where you're likely to have 2 calls at once. So that's where, right now, where our numbers make sense to put it in. But it would, with the cost to staff it, it would lose money right now. So as those numbers increase a little bit, that cost will come down a little bit. And there may be a time in the near future where the availability of that second ambulance coming in from another community, whether it be, our mutual aid partners like Wilmington, Woburn, Linfield, they're not available. So we're gonna have to have more reliance on ourselves.
So right now, if there are 2 calls, it's typically a mutual aid or
It's
is it
always,
a
yeah, just the second call is always a mutual aid.
not the private, or it might be private if it's coming from Wilmington if they're using a private ambulance service.
So Wilmington uses their own fire department ambulance, but it's at the basic life support level. So if our second call is an advanced life support call, we would say bring in Wilmington. We would also bring in a private advanced life support provider, so they would go to the hospital with them. So we're not taking, because you want 2 paramedics together treating. So we would have to take a fire truck out of service in order to jump in the back of their ambulance. So we bring in a private vendor for that. But we are seeing increases, and so, you know, in the outlying years, I think, you know, we'll be back with some kind of a plan.
Go, Joe.
I have a good question, just trying to actually understand the way the wages are broken down. I don't know if Jackie's presenting, she can scroll back up. The totals all make sense, so I didn't think about this before now, and I just realized that if we're doubling the number of lieutenants, I would have expected the lieutenants line to have gone up by a lot more than 20%. I also would have expected that we'd have 4 fewer firefighters, and that line would see go up because of, you know, step increases and so forth, but then go down because there'd be fewer firefighters. I'm curious how that, like I said, the plan makes sense and the totals add up, but I just don't quite understand how it's broken down here.
So for a firefighter to go from firefighter to lieutenant, it's a 15% increase in their salary. So, and then, so I, to do the calculations, I moved 4 senior people from the firefighters group into the lieutenants group, gave them that first year stipend. That was the cost. That reduced the firefighter stipend, but we have, one of the reasons why it's not, you know, is because we have people going through the step system. We have new people that go in from, you know, firefighter 2 to firefighter 3 or 4, so that's 5% between steps, and then there's an increase, a COLA increase in there as well. So it's a very young department like we have the number, we have like about 12 or 16 firefighters going through the step system. So so that's why the firefighters step line item isn't dropping down.
There's a couple of factors in play then. Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the chief? Thanks so much, chief. It was really great. Thanks. There was a lot of great information in there. Really appreciate it. It's always fascinating to hear you kind of go into those details.
Thank you.
I could do it all day, but it's giving me the stink eye, so we're gonna move on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, chief.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm going to talk about roughly 4.5 hours.
Oh, I got my water out. Pull my feet up.
No, I know everybody. Hope you'll bear with me. I'm David Clark. I'm your chief of police. With me is Christine Amendola, who's my deputy chief of police. So tonight's presentation, we're not asking for any more staff or additional staff or any extra with that. Our staffing, what we have is, again, just like the fire department, we're a very young department. So we have a lot of people in steps coming up, but the pay and class study has added some to the difference in salary. So we are a staff of 46 sworn officers. Staff are 11 civilian dispatchers. We have 3 administrative staff, 3 members of the coalition, a parking enforcement officer, and 17 per diem crossing guards. My budget was broken up into police, dispatch, and the coalition. Currently, we're down 2 police officers. We just hired 2, and we'll be sending them to the academy in April. So good news is we hired 2. Bad news is actually pilfered from the dispatch center and took one of my dispatchers to become a police officer. So she's leaving us from the dispatch, but joining us at the police academy. And we hired we stole a dispatcher from Burlington too. So,
That's good, Burlington. It's good play.
so we hired 2. They're gonna, they're gonna be leaving for the academy in April. They will graduate at the end of September or early October, and then they go through a 12 to 14 week field training program. So they won't count as bodies for me until probably roughly December. We've been very lucky over the past few years. We have not had to send a lot of people to the academy. And when we've put out for jobs, we've actually a very desirable department to work for and a very desirable town to work for. So lately, becoming very unpopular with the local chiefs. Because we have taken police officers from Wayland, Arlington, Nahant, Nantucket, the MBTA, Boston PD, the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department, Boston, New Hampshire, Exeter, New Hampshire, and the Vermont State Police. And benefit was they all come in academy trained, and we're able to get them right on the road sooner. We do a brief field training, It's more of introduction to Reading, our computer system, our streets, our procedures, that kind of thing. And we still do about a 12-week program with that. We don't want to really shorten it because we want to really introduce them to Reading, get them comfortable with the streets, and they're rotating with all the field training officers. We've been very lucky. This time we had 2 extremely qualified candidates, and they both happen to need the academy. So I am going to need to replace Lauren as one of our dispatchers. We're going to have to hire another dispatcher. We've been short in dispatch for years. We've finally got up to staffing, and now we're going short again. But we're also going to need to promote 2 sergeants. This past year, I've lost 2 senior sergeants and a senior lieutenant, all the retirements. We're seeing this nationally. The Stoneham chief just announced his retirement. The North Reading chief just announced his retirement. Every time I go to a chiefs meeting, I'm slowly becoming one of the most senior chiefs in Massachusetts. We're seeing it nationally. So like I said, we lost 3 of our senior people. So I am going to have to promote 2 more sergeants. We just had the exam last Saturday. We'll have an assessment center coming up, and then we'll be promoting 2 more sergeants. So salary lines, like I said, it's steps. We're not asking for any increase in staffing or anything. So we'll be adding some more people in steps. So it'll change, but that's an accurate figure where we are with everything for wages. For expenses, what I'm really asking for, I did add an additional line. I'm asking for a line for $4,000 for our dogs. I'm hoping you all know that we have 3 dogs in the police department now. 2 of the most popular officers in town, Cooper and Rusty. And we also have Tango, who's our canine dog, our tracking dog. It's been almost a year now since we've had all 3 dogs. And I now have an idea of what the expenses are for food and medical expenses. So that's why I'm asking for $4,000. We've been very generous. The public's been very generous with donations, but I want to use the donations more for buying things for the dogs, baseball cards for the kids, that kind of stuff that we hand out as more community policing stuff. I think that, in my opinion, that food and medical expenses should be covered by the town budget. I'm not asking for a lot. It's $4,000. I did cut in 2 locations. We did decrease $1,000 out of police postage, and I took $1,000 less out of our parking program. So I'm actually asking for an additional $2,000, not $4,000. The reason is more and more public records requests. People are asking us not to mail them; they're asking us to email them. So I've been able to cut down a lot on our postage. A lot of that we have to send certified, so that's why we have to kind of keep an expense line for it. And the parking program, we did away. Well, we didn't. The select board did away with leased parking spaces and went to more employee and things like that. So we don't need to buy as many stickers as we've done before, or section of stickers. So we figured out we were able to cut $1,000 from there, and that's where 2 of the decreases are. This is more condensed, so I'm going to try to break it down more individually than what's there. I am asking for an additional $5,000 to police cruisers and equipment. Cost of vehicles going up, cost of emergency light are going up. The offset to that is we have our 2 hybrid cruisers out on the road. I'm going to be buying more in July 1. What the officers are telling me that have been using them so far is on an average shift, they would use about a half a tank of gas. They're telling me with the 2 hybrids, they're using about an eighth of a tank of gas. So even though they cost slightly more for us to get, the benefit not just to the environment, the benefit of the town overall and the gas program is that we are saving the town and having to buy gas. And so we are going to be getting more hybrids come July 1. So they're a little bit more expensive, and emergency lights have gone up. So I'm just asking for an additional $5,000 just in my cruiser line to be able to help support that. Police weapons, I'm asking for an additional $2,500. That is for training for less than lethal. We have added a lot of less than lethal tasers. We've changed our shotguns over to a beanbag with the less than lethal. And we have less than the 400 millimeters. The thing is, we wanted our officers to have a lot of options available to us. Again, always de-escalation first, talking down first. That doesn't always work. When we need to, we want to have a bunch of tools available to us, a bunch of options available to us. The training rounds are expensive for those, but we're doing a lot of training with slowing things down, de-escalation, moving in groups, talking groups, working together. So I just offset that. We just wanted to increase to be able to get more training rounds for that. And police maintenance equipment, we're asking for an additional $2,000. That's for the message boards. We use the message boards not just for the police department. We use them for all town events. We've used them to help advertise jobs to the DPW for different places in town. The town manager last year, Bob, bought us one through a program, but it didn't come with a software part for it. So it's the software that's generally the maintenance for them, but they can also be used as radar boards, to do radar on the streets, slowing people down, traffic enforcement. So we have, Deputy, we have 8, 10? 5? That's why Christine's here.
But they give us all speed data, traffic data as well, as just the message too, so we can run reports on a whole street and what's going on there by hours.
It's good to know.
So the software,
Take that, I'm gonna write myself a note. That's good, yeah, good, yeah.
so the software for that,
Pictures too,
it's gone up a little bit.
Come on. Oh, that's, oh,
So we're just asking for an additional $2,000 for that. The next group, I'm asking for under police professional services, development, registration to memberships, 500 for a few, $1,000 increase in memberships. We've been notified that some memberships going up. And then on the police reimbursements, I'm asking to go up to $1,000 because registration costs have gone up. I know it's kind of, and somehow got kind of lumped in with a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm breaking it down. So I'm asking for an additional 500 in police professional services, an extra $500 in professional development, an extra 500 in registrations, an extra 1,000 in dues and memberships, and an extra 1,000 in police reimbursements. The state went ahead and changed our 4-day mandated in-service training, and our officers work a 4 and 2 schedule, most of them. So we have to pull them off of 4 shifts and send them to in-service training, and then have them come back in afterwards. The state up and changed it to 5 days and just told the police departments about that. So now we have to come up with an additional day of training. And I have currently 8 police sergeants, well, I will have 8 sergeants, first line supervisors on the departments. Of those 8, 2 have been a sergeant for a year, 2 have been a sergeant for under 6 months, and 2 will be brand new. So I really want to send them to a lot of professional development, first line supervisor training, stuff like that. That's why I'm asking for the increase, on top of the fact that some registrations and dues have gone up. I've been notified that some places that we belong to, Middlesex Chiefs, Greater Boston Police Council, they're increasing their dues, but we got a lot of free training out of this, so the dues is worth it. So I'm just trying to help offset that. That's why I'm looking for an increase in that. Police radar units, I'm asking for an additional $1,000, and that's because the cost of the radar units and all the cruises have increased maintenance costs. We have to get them calibrated every single year. And so the company comes out and they go through every single radar unit that we have in all the cruises, allows us to get calibrated. That way they're certified, and that way if we make traffic stops, we know that we're actually, the radar is accurate with it. So, police medical supplies, I'm asking for additional $500. We are first responders. Again, we have a fantastic fire department. We're very lucky to have a paramedic truck there, but generally we're on the road, and a lot of times we're the first ones to show up. So we do have defibrillators in the car. We have a basic first aid kit in the car, and first aid kits are starting to increase. It's also, if the fire department is tied up on a medical and they're waiting for the out-of-town rescue to come, sometimes we can be there first, or there could be multiple calls going on or a car crash. So we do go through the medical supplies quite regularly. The cost of those are going up, so I'm asking for an additional $500 for those. And police officer supplies, I'm asking for an additional $2,000. I'm sure everybody's seen the cost of office supplies. We've been really trying to get away from paper and really trying to do stuff online, but the police world is still a very paper-driven agency. The courts haven't caught on yet. The courts still want us to photocopy every single police report, every single piece of paper, and bring it over in person. They don't like it to be emailed anymore. So the courts haven't quite caught up. So we're still a very paper-driven agency, even though we've been internally in the station have been really cutting down on that. But cost of toner for copying has gone up. Cost of toner for printers has gone up. There's a lot of reports nowadays for just an average arrest. There's a lot of reports to it.
Chief, could I just stop you for 1 second, just to go back a couple, just on the training piece?
Yep.
Just, and I don't know if there was something you were gonna get to anyways, but like, I know you were, and I think this might have been last year or the year before, outfitting the station for better training, the remodel that was on so just a quick, are you guys how are you utilizing that? Are you seeing, the kind of the benefits of having that a kind of expanded, kind of training area for the stuff that you were just talking about and stuff like that?
So perfect example, we recently just held we actually hosted a field training officers class.
Oh,
So we had 35 police officers from all over New England come to get certified as field training officers. It was a 5-day class. We got 3 free slots.
wow.
So they will send 3 officers through that for the training. We have a accreditation training coming up for the Mass Police Accreditation Commission, which the Deputy Chief is very involved with. And we're actually hosting a training for the North Shore there from police officers all over the state to get people certified as accreditation people. And we get to put, again, the deputy chief and Lieutenant Jones, who does our accreditation, get to attend that for nothing. So it's been a benefit, and we're slowly expanding that training out. We're looking to host a CTO program, which is our Communication Training Officers Program for the dispatchers. It's a training program for the dispatchers. And we're looking to train a couple more of the dispatchers as CTOs. And we're going to be hosting the class for that. And if we do, we're going to get the free slots for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's helped us with the cost of registrations. We do have some overtime if we can't pull them up the shift or if the backfill. But as far as the registrations, yes, we've been able to hold a bunch. And we're going to continue to hold a bunch. I know Chief Burns, if we're going to be holding a joint class on incident command systems. We have so many new department heads in town. The chief and I are hosting a joint training there to teach all the department heads on incident command systems and how, on a major incident, how everything works and how the command center, because that's also doubles as our emergency operations center.
Yep.
And how that room works and what happens during a major scene, if it ever happens in Reading.
Nice, that's awesome.
So it's been a huge benefit.
And then just kind of station-wise, it's a tangential, like space-wise and everything else that within the station, everything, how is that? Like for the staff and everything else?
Staffing wise, we have plenty of space for everybody. Our issue is parking. Yeah, just like everywhere downtown.
Heard that.
No, yeah, first time
okay.
hearing of it too.
I know Reading does not have a parking problem anyway, no.
No. Is the station downtown?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second, yeah.
It's very far, like you can throw a rock in it from there. Yeah, our biggest issue is parking in the station.
Gotcha.
Because we have to keep a bunch of spaces open for the public because we are very busy. Right now we got a shopping container in front of the station. We have the medicine drop off there. We do have a lot of people that come and go with the coalition there. They got a lot of visitors. So it's, and with a true 24/7 building, not that the fire department's not, but where the doors are open. And so people come in 3 o'clock in the morning to get an access stick or to drop off their meds for some reason. So we're constantly busy, but parking's our issue, but inside the building, no, we've done a lot. We have a great facilities department that helps us out.
Yep.
And really comes through, and we've been able to tweak some space, move some space around, move desks around, and
That's great. Yeah, just curious, I don't think we've ever get really a chance to ask you that type of question. So this, I know that other departments in other towns are looking at, their space and things of that nature, and just kind of curious as far as where we stand.
so I have to say, I got to give credit to a group of people in town when I was just a little patrol officer before 2000. When they built that station, they built 2 expansion spaces. And the expansion space that we're using now is the new training room.
Yep.
And then down below in the basement, IT has taken over, and it's the backup for the town because we have a massive 24/7 generator. IT, so every computer system in the town gets backed up in that data center. So IT in the basement has taken over one of those expansion spaces, and it's become the main headquarters. So basically everything's in town. So they had a lot of foresight. They built in a little bit of extra office space. When I got in the police department 28 years ago, I never thought we'd have comfort dogs and all that other stuff. I didn't think we'd have coalition members and a mental health clinician. I couldn't have perceived that 28 years ago. That just wasn't common. Now we have that. We have the coalition staff. We have our mental health clinician. They have office space now. So whoever designed that building actually had a lot of foresight for the future when we might or might not need.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks, Chief.
They didn't think about the outside of the building, but inside.
Yeah. The inside that matters.
Yeah. Just a couple highlights. We remain very active on our social media. We have over 8,800 followers on Facebook. We have 1,700 plus followers on Instagram. And we have 11,300 on Twitter. Now, granted, some of those think we're Reading, Pennsylvania. And you send out tips asking us to hit certain areas. So, but we're very active on social media. We try to get out a lot that's going on. If there's an accident or active scene going on, we put that out along with Code Red to send a message to the town. We put out programs we're offering. The 2 comfort dogs, Trooper and Rusty, each have over 3,000 followers each on their social media pages. They have a separate social media page. And we so far run 2 women's self-defense classes, the RAD program. We've hosted a Citizens Police Academy class. We did a couple coffees with the cop. We had our senior citizens dinner at the senior center, and Harrow's donated the chicken pies for us to host that. And we're doing what we call lunchroom takeover, where we go into the elementary schools and we take over from the lunch ladies, and we serve lunch and then sit with the kids and everything. That's big. We're going to do another one of those in the spring. It's getting requested again. And the bicycle helmet safety program, all the new business in town, Cal's Creamery jumped on board with it, and Dandelions has always done it. Rich's Ice Cream, we hand out free ice cream if you catch the kids with a bicycle helmet on, either scootering, rollerblading, or riding a bike. We pull them over in the cruiser, issue them a citation. They get a free slice of ice cream, or a free slice of pizza, or either Capri, Pizza World. All the local businesses love donating it, and so we're very active. We do a lot of programs. But my officers do the day-to-day. The officers we have, especially the lateral transfers that come over, get it. They wanted to come over here because of what we do and the day-to-day that they do every single day, interacting with the public, stopping in neighborhoods, playing basketball with the kids, chit-chatting with the neighbors, getting out of the cars. I brought the police motorcycle back. I never seen it out. I got 3 people that started on the police motorcycle. Very active with traffic enforcement and very active hitting the neighborhoods. And it's been, so the day-to-day community policing stuff doesn't get measured. I can't give you a stat on it, but they're out there and they're very active and they do a great job for us, the officers. But there's also programs and stuff that we do with them. Last lunchroom takeover. This gentleman here, his nickname's the Ever-Rated Bunny. He never slows down. We're out there serving the kids. He's washing tables down, helping the custodian empty trash barrels. So he's come to a couple of those with us, and it's been a great success. But it's we're very lucky to have the staff we have. They understand about giving back to the community, and a good portion of us live in town, have kids in the school system. So we obviously care about it. So that is police in a nutshell. I know I talk very fast. My wife is probably sitting at home like, slow down.
I think we followed most of it.
Okay. Tell me not to knock it out. I'm trying to knock it down from 4.5 hours. So.
Right. I think you just squeaked in. Any questions for the chief? Go ahead, Jeff.
You mentioned the fuel saving on the hybrid. Do we see that in your budget or is that in the accommodated cost somewhere else?
So all of our gas we get from the DPW.
Okay.
And so they have a system where we go in, there's a card assigned, there's a code assigned to the officer, and there's a card that's assigned to a fob that's assigned to the cruiser, so they can keep track of who bought the gas. We put the mileage in, which is also a system, so the DPW knows when it's due for oil changes and everything, and kind of alerts them. So I don't know the breakdown down. I just know from what we're seeing from hearing from the officers, averaging usually about a half a tank of gas to an eighth. So I'm sure as we get a couple more hybrids online, because we do drive our cruisers 24/7. So that's a shift that we're seeing that. So that's per shift. So over 3 shifts, we're seeing a huge savings. So I don't know how Jane could even quantify that right now, to be honest with you. But
We trust her.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's built in with everything. Yeah, it's not an individual.
I saw fuel DPW and I was thinking that was DPW vehicles, but it's all of the town vehicles.
Yeah, all that. So the fire department, police departments, it's all through all of them.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. I'm sorry if I missed this. The police cruiser line though, I mean, the hybrid is great. But, is that 1 cruiser or 2?
So I have 2 hybrids right now.
Okay, so that budget's like for 2 hybrids. That's the 135?
Yep. So we're gonna be buying, I'm looking to buy 2 more cruisers on July 1.
Got it, okay. And then the equipment maintenance, does that go through DPW or is that for private maintenance that you need to do? Like,
So that's individual maintenance on there. So the DPW does our oil changes, anything, tire rotations, that kind of stuff, brakes, everything else. It's for maintenance, basic maintenance in the, which line item exactly are you talking about?
oh, equipment? Equipment maintenance probably?
Oh, that's everything. That's firearms, that's the less lethal options. That's kind of more everything that we.
So it's not just car, okay.
No.
Okay.
'Cause like the, we have to replace we have flashlights on all the firearms, less than lethal, so those have batteries that have to replace that every year. Any parts that break, holsters that break if we're in a scuffle with somebody, jumping over a fence or something, like that's kind of all equipment.
Okay, thanks.
Whichever.
Reminding of the firearms, I think we had something at town meeting where you were buying some new firearms and then selling off the old ones for parts because the parts are so hard to get. How did that all turn out?
So we're in the middle of purchasing right now. We just sent off the, I always butcher the term, IFB.
IFB.
Okay, I have no idea what it means, but we did the IFB.
Okay.
And so we just did that, and that's out, it's gonna be advertised tomorrow.
March 16th.
Okay.
And then we have to give it 2 weeks, and then we can move forward with purchasing.
Right.
Other firearms. We've narrowed it down to what we're gonna use, what we're gonna get, and now that's what we're moving forward on that.
Phil, you just had something in the select board where like something you were lumping the 2 of them together, like the sale and the purchase. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then again, it's because we have an older generation firearm, they can't get parts for them anymore.
Right.
So the companies that deal with police agencies are gonna really want those for the parts.
Would you?
Question about overtime, just like with the fire department, it's down a bit from actuals the last few years. Is there anything driving that?
Again, we're hoping that staffing is up there. We had, on top of being short officers, I had 2 female officers throughout last year go out on light duty because they're pregnant. So they become pregnant and they notify us they're pregnant, we put them on a desk job, light duty. And then, and it's not, and just because the weight of the gun belt and the bulletproof vest. And then they took their maternity leave afterwards. So We were down 2 officers for that. And then we were down for new hires and some injuries. And so we were down a little bit. So the numbers really up for overtime. Right now, we should be fine. I'm anticipating, as long as we can get the hires in and everything, we should be good. But some of it's driven based on incidents. A couple of years ago, I remember one year we had about 8 SWAT calls, and we were out busy over calling it the shift and everything. So it kind of sometimes it fluctuates, but I'm budgeting for what I'm anticipating for it.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I guess what we're probably seeing now is the benefit of all of the seasoned hires. So so like they come in, it's only 12 weeks or, something that versus, kind of a new hire that's got to go through the academy. So you'd have that slot, but then you'd still have to fill the shifts.
Correct.
So what we're seeing now is the benefit, kind of maybe 2 years in of actually having, that staff, so you don't have to necessarily use more overtime, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a baseline going forward, because as the department kind of moves through.
And I have another officer that could retire any day.
You're right.
He's told me he had no intention of retiring, but he could. We also lost an officer to the FBI, transferred to the FBI, and we lost another one transferred to the ATF.
Yep.
Those are unanticipated things. I can't, so I'm
Yep.
guessing with that, but if something
Gotcha.
were to change.
Yep, that makes sense.
Dispatch overtime, we go with that, it's gonna be up high again, because
Any other questions for the chief? Go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, the breakdown of expenses that you gave is way more detailed and useful than what we have here. Is there any possibility that that could get shared with us?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, no problems.
Awesome. Anything else? Chief, thanks so much. Really
Let's
appreciate
look
it.
at this, the coalition to do it.
Then I take that back.
We're done, we're wrapped up.
I take that back. I thought you were done.
Sorry. It's brief. Dispatch, again, we have 11 civilian dispatchers. We're gonna be down to 10. It does take months to train a dispatcher. That dispatch center is extremely busy. So they do both police and fire. So they handle the radios and the calls, the business calls for both. They talk to both departments. They also do our 911 and our emergency medical dispatch. So if the fire department is heading to a call, one dispatcher is broadcasting out the call, sending out the FD. The other one is on and giving what's called emergency medical dispatch. It's a computer system, asking questions based on the answers, giving more. We did have one of our, I don't know if you do follow us on social media, we had one of our dispatchers actually get a life-saving ribbon because he actually talked to a family member through giving CPR. The officers arrived, started CPR, the fire department arrived, paramedics took over, and that person thankfully is alive and doing well. So it starts with a very basic level. They also are crucial to us now in court and establishing probable cause for us to do and really gaining the information on what exactly type of call us or the fire department or both are walking into, especially with mental health calls significantly on the rise. They can really, they're crucial into getting the information we need to determine what assets we need to send. And it's a very tough job. I know for a fact I couldn't do it when I was a patrol officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and I was on the desk. I felt there was more of a way there than actually help. So it's a very tough job. They have a lot of skills and a lot going on in there. That dispatch center was redone as part of that upgrade a few years ago. It's phenomenal in there. It's a great center, and they're very hardworking people, very unappreciated. But they work really hard in there. It's the ability to multitask in there because they can go from nothing going on to absolute chaos in seconds, back to nothing, back to chaos, and they do a wonderful job. The only thing I'm really asking for, so the salaries, again, it's based on, we have a lot of new people and a lot of steps in there. The only thing I've asked for is a $500 increase in uniforms and clothing because the cost of uniforms are kind of come up. Granted, they're in the police station, but when they deal with the public, I want them still looking professional, and we have a standard uniform for them, and cost of uniforms have gone up. So that's the only thing I asked for is an additional $500 for clothing. Training-wise, we do have a 911 grant, and we'll be able to use that 911 grant to offset a lot of the training that we send them to.
Just let you on that.
The narrative under dispatch says that 911 grant is used to offset existing wages. And it also mentions that it could be discontinued at any time. How worried should we be about that?
I'm sorry, how worried?
Yeah.
Right now, the state, I think, especially since it's impossible to hire dispatchers, we're actually having an easier time hiring police officers than dispatchers.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna do away with it, and that the training and the amount, how serious that job has become, I don't see them doing away with it. So it does offset a lot of, because the training, backfill, that CTO program, for example, EMD certifications, all that, we can offset a lot of that with that.
Do you know how long that grant's been in existence?
At least 20 years.
Oh, okay, but nothing new.
Yeah, it's through the state 911 program, so I'll be shocked if they
Perfect.
do it, especially since they're adding in something now, but there's like text 911, which is coming in, which they're gonna be having in Reading too, so it's, it's just becoming that much more.
Perfect. Thanks, Chief.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Last of the coalition, as you know, our CASA of the Reading has become the Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support. We have 3 staff members. We have Erica McNamara, who's the director, Crystal Lennox Gary, who's our outreach coordinator, and then we hired Tanya as our mental health clinician. We have been very fortunate. We have 3 amazing people in there. They have actually asked for the only thing for them is salaries. It's just steps and the paying class study. And they are actually, Erica has level funded her budget for expenses. And so there's no increases we're asking for there. They are, they've been awesome. Tanya, who came over in April, we told her to take her time settling in, get settled. That lasted about a half a day. And then she's been out there. She has done ride-alongs with every single police officer. She's gotten to meet them all. She does help us. She's extremely busy, doing a lot of follow-ups. She's hosting hours at the library, hours at the police station, meeting with the public. She does meet with staff and meets with families, children. She's very busy out there. She's been very active. She's been at all of our events. She immersed herself in the public schools, working with the guidance counselors, working with the clinicians over there. She's been great. I don't know if anybody saw the great piece the news did on mental health first aid. They did an awesome piece on that in the news. That was all the coalition work. I know that annually, so far, the staff has conducted over 115 prevention activities, reaching over 2,100 individuals. Yet to date, the mental health clinician has conducted over 200 crisis follow-up calls for mental health, and this is since she started in April. She provides follow-up, office hours, provide therapeutic support for children, teens, and adults in Reading, and as well as she meets the officers regularly too. Officers, we've gone to suicides, we've gone to serious car crashes, and the officers know they can go in and talk to her. She's built up a rapport. The officers feel very comfortable going in and talking to her, which has been great. The coalition is involved in a pilot program with these pocket translators that they're testing. We have a couple of the officers on the road testing it, and it could do up like, I think, a few hundred different languages. And we're working on those. And the goal is, if it works well, the goal is to have one in every single school and every single department in Reading, and then all the cruises. And she found a grant for that to cover that. So we're testing it right now. So they're wonderful. I can't say about them. They've been a great asset to the police department, a great asset to the town. Like I said, the wages are strictly the paying class study and the steps and raises. And she came to me and said she could level fund because she's been doing a ton of grants and stuff that's been coming in. So.
Incredible. Any questions on, what was this? Go ahead, Joe.
I want to go 4.5 hours. So it's like the metrics that you highlighted, right? 3 people. Do you think they're at capacity, or like that sounds pretty busy?
You're asking me if you came to me and said, I could fund you another clinician, would you take it? I would say yes. Are they busy? Yes. They're on straight.
But more so than a police officer. I don't mean to put you.
It's very different jobs.
Yeah.
Call wise, I can show the staff, we're out straight. If you came to me and said you want to add more police officers, I'd take it too. We're very busy out there that way. They do a very different job than us. But yeah, they're busy, but they do work hand in hand with our community service officer, who's in working, Kristen O'Shaughnessy, they work hand in hand with her with follow-ups. Kristen's very immersed with it because sometimes Kristen's the one going to the call and then bringing them in afterwards. So we can't really do the one without the other. So it'd be detriment to cut one to go to the other. It'd be detriment to cut one for the other. But if you want to add in, Joe, we'll bring another clinician.
It's not totally up to me, but we'll defer to Ed and others. Thanks.
Go, Jeffrey.
You mentioned with the pocket translator things. Can you give me a percentage about how many of the traffic stops that you do is the driver speak doesn't speak English as a first language? Like 2%? Is it like 50%?
It's pretty low, but you know, when it happens, it's usually more than just a regular traffic stop. So, you know, sometimes it could be a domestic situation, not just a traffic stop. We could have someone come in that needs to file a restraining order and they don't speak English. So it's helped us in a whole bunch of calls, and it's usually ones that are more involved than just a basic traffic stop. But I mean, it's not very high here for, you know, non-English speaking, but I'd say yeah, maybe 2%, 5%, but it usually is stuff that is very involved and it really helps us, so.
A little more than license and registration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we do have a couple officers, Givenson Brazad, who we took from Nantucket, speaks fluent Haitian. We have another officer coming on in July, one of the officers we hired, who speaks fluent Arabic. And Crystal speaks fluent Spanish and Portuguese from the coalition. So we do have some officers we can help out. There's translation services available, but we're very excited for the pocket translators for that on the scene, something serious, even a car accident. Trying to get the information of what happened. It's more than, it's a little more than just a simple, like, just traffic stop for us.
Anything else?
Do you want me to go for another 2 hours, or you good?
We'll pass this time, but no, Chief, thanks so much. It was excellent. Really,
Okay, thank you.
great
Appreciate it.
stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chief. And Ade is online. Mr. Ade?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ade Solari, Public Health Director for the Town of Reading. I will start with a quick description of our key responsibilities and then give a general overview of the budget, go through the budget line by line, give a quick summary, and conclude by addressing a question I have received on multiple occasions from the same individual. So, key responsibilities. Our mission is to protect and promote the health and well-being of the residents and visitors of Reading. As a result, our key responsibilities include: 1, leading public health activities related to disease outbreaks and surveillance; 2, administering vaccinations; 3, managing establishment permitting and inspections; 4, managing compliance checks and inspections related to tobacco control, animal control, and pest control; 5, tracking and responding to public health complaints; and 6, collaborating with federal, state, and local agencies to coordinate public health responses. In terms of the general overview of the budget, we are not requesting additional funding for FY24, which is contrary to, police and fire.
Remote, not in person.
Exactly. Very strategic, very well done.
As a matter of fact, we are proposing to decrease our FY24 budget by 5.9% compared to the year before. We're proposing to decrease our staffing level from 4.64 full-time employees to 4 full-time employees. In fiscal year 21, we added a part-time position to augment our COVID-19 response activities. With COVID-19 being under control, we no longer feel the need to keep the part-time position. Eliminating the part-time position frees up $36,025. The freed up funds would be used to offset the cost of living adjustments and salary adjustments in the amount of $2,325. It will be used to fund the professional development line item in the amount of $6,000. It will also be used to fund the health clinic supplies line item in the amount of $500. The remainder, which is $27,200, will be reallocated to other needs as determined by the town manager. So basically, the chart you're looking at is divided into 2 sections. The salaries budget, which is the top half of the chart, and the expense budget, which is the bottom half of the chart. So looking at the top half of the chart, the salaries budget, most of the changes are as a result of the pay and class study, as well as cost of living adjustments. However, The most significant change is the 32.5% decrease in the line item for the public health nurse salary. So if you look at to the right, where it says change, you can see a negative 32.5% decrease. Pretty much that's due to the elimination of the part-time nurse position. If we look at the expense budget alone, which is the bottom half of the chart, most of the line items are level funded. The $46,000 for mosquito control remains the same. $10,000 for animal disposal hasn't changed. And the $25,000 for regional animal control is still the same, hasn't changed. So we're proposing $6,000 in additional expense to cover professional development under the professional services line item. And we're also proposing $500 in additional expense to cover health clinic supplies under the health order line item. So, in summary, by eliminating the part-time nurse position, we saved $36,025. We used some of our savings to offset some additional expenses, and we're left with $27,200, which is a total budget decrease of 5.9% from last year's budget. Now, I have received this same question on multiple occasions from the same individual, and I would like to use this opportunity to address this question once again. And the question is, why are you eliminating the part-time public health nurse position? The answer, 3 reasons. First reason, with COVID-19 being under control, we no longer feel the need to keep the part-time position. In other words, there are no duties for this position to fulfill at this time. Second reason, in the highly unlikely event that a need arises to reinstate the part-time nurse position, I've had a discussion with Fidel about it, and he's open to reinstating the position using a different funding source. The last but not the least, the towns of North Andover, Andover, Reading, North Reading, Linfield, and the city of Haverhill secured a public health excellence grant for shared services in the amount of $297,200 per year. Some of the funds will be used to hire a public health nurse that will work within each municipality. So this concludes my presentation. I will take questions, comments, thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Ade. Go ahead, Marion.
Hi, Ade. Maybe I should have noticed this last year. I guess, why did animal disposal get budgeted for $10,000 for FY23 when the actuals were like, you know, a little more than a tenth of that? And I understand it's level funded, but I guess what's going on with animal disposal?
So with animal disposals, you just never know what will happen. Sometimes it goes closer to $10,000. Sometimes it's less than that. We've seen it close to $10,000 in the past. So we feel safe budgeting it at $10,000.
Okay, is that also related to, I might already know the answer to this. With the regional animal control, we spent $10,725 in 22, and we're budgeted for 25 this year and 25K next year. Is it, is this one of those things that we're no longer sharing this service?
So pretty much with this service, we had a contract with the town of Wakefield, and technically the animal control officers work for the town of Wakefield. Wakefield pays them and they request a reimbursement from the town of Reading. So based on the contract, we have to level fund at $25,000.
Okay, but I mean, I guess maybe I'm asking questions about last year, but I don't know, when we had actuals of a small amount of money, that was under that same contract, and now Wakefield's just raised the price a lot in fiscal year '23, and it's continuing to be raised.
Did it start partway through that fiscal year?
Oh, that's what it
Yeah, I
was?
think yeah.
That's why.
So this line item used to be under the police department and it just got transferred to the health department during this budget
During
period.
2022. All right, thank you. Maybe, so that one was clearer, I guess, just the disposal, animal disposal. Is animal disposal like if a
Yes.
raccoon dies or an animal is hit, is that what that is?
Correct. So we have our animal control officers that go out there and they pick those dead animals up and they dispose of them. And then we have animals that need to be euthanized as well. They have to pay for the disposal as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Christine?
I'm just pointing out a typo, perhaps, I think it's a typo. Okay, right.
It's totally a typo, go.
Okay, so under support staff, it went from 59,000 to 57,000, but it says the percent change is 100, so I'm sure it's just a pull down. But if we're reprinting these, I just wanted to point it out. That's all.
Thank you for pointing that out.
That's 100%.
We're good, Jeffrey, yeah.
No, I mean, there's been some news recently about the COVID vaccine manufacturers dramatically increasing the cost of those vaccines. Should we anticipate changes to the costs for us as a town to buy and administer those vaccines?
Well, currently we are using a company called Vaccinate RX. And what they do is they bill the individuals directly. At this point, I think we have enough money in the budget to accommodate any additional changes. Everything has been factored in.
So most, like all of the people getting vaccinated are covered by insurance then?
Most people, pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for today? Go ahead, Maureen, sure.
Just one last question, because it's not here. So you guys still have the 250K, I think, in ARPA money too?
I think it's gone down to 100.
I keep forgetting about the 80 out of it, but you still have at least more than 100K in ARPA money also to cover COVID cost of
Yes, we do.
vaccines too. Okay,
Yes, we do.
Anything else? That was 10 minutes.
All right.
10 minutes. So, you know.
4.5 hours.
Thanks today. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
we had the warrant, we got the email.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the town warrant is gonna take a long time, so I
You think so?
will do a long summary. Jackie, if you could pull up the spending scorecard, page 20 on the budget. Just give a quick summary. I think that the spending scorecard is what you vote on, and I think it gives a good summary.
Well, she's pulling out, like, just sort of a general question, like, we saw a lot of presentation on grant and is that, I don't know how well coordinated it is, or is each department kind of looking for themselves? And I know you brought in some earmarks, but how well coordinated are we on that? And is there opportunities to get more grant money and earmarks?
There's definitely a lot more opportunity. I think you know, each department kind of has their wheelhouse, right? So the fire chief, for example, he goes after the grants that are just for the fire department. We talked about the 911 grants that you know we try to go after every year. On the new grants, if you will, right? It's mostly handled by myself, planning and engineering, and essentially and DPW on the most part. So
Do you think we're missing out on grants? So like if we had somebody focused on that, you know, I know that the city I was involved with in the past did have a full-time employee that all they did was go out and get grants and it paid, you know, they paid for themselves. You think there's an opportunity there for us at all, or?
If you're offering me a new employee, then absolutely, I will take it. I'm joking.
It's sensing a theme.
Well, if they pay for themselves and what they're bringing in, I mean,
No,
just,
I think I think last year, in FY '23, right? FY '23 is, I think it was the low hanging fruit, if you will, right? And we got a ton of grants that we now have to execute on.
Yeah.
So one thing is getting the grant. The other one is using the money, right, and actually building, what do you got the money for, right? I think that it's going to ebb and flow a little bit, right? I mean, we are going to focus on the big ones. So, and the big one right now is MassWorks, which is an infrastructure grant, and we're going to try to get at least a couple of million for the roadway improvements on Haven Street, right? So there's a few other grants that we're chasing. Ben Cares, who was the economic development director, he's chasing a grant, of $50,000 to do placemaking, right, in the downtown. It's not things that are going to change our life. What I'm focusing on are the big ones, like the Malia Psalms, for example, where we got $4 million, right? Like that's really what what's going to make it in the process. I think that we are fairly robust right now, and I think we got to go through a few cycles of this. Kind of learning how to apply, learning what to chase for, and what's easy to get and what's not easy to get.
so I'm just wondering, people seem like they're doing it part-time, so if we're missing out on something, I don't know if we are or aren't, but
Yeah.
in your time, if you're focusing your time on it, is that taken away, is there opportunity cost there? So just kind of throwing it out there, so.
Can
I
I
think we're
just,
okay for now.
can I just follow up on something you said in response to him? You said Ben Cares is going after a placemaking grant. Is that the same as a wayfinding? Because we got a wayfinding grant a few years ago. That's what all the little signs that aren't in the red in colors.
Yeah.
But we have them anyway.
So the grant that I mentioned earlier is more around placemaking, which is going to be more about setting up like the pocket park, for example, on
Okay.
Haven Street. He wants to do a few things in the common and a few things on Main Street, essentially to make it more fun and to increase foot traffic.
Okay, so placemaking is different than wayfinding. It's one of those kind of
The planning.
planning phrases. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So page 20, Ms. Jackie, just on the spending scorecard, obviously, in terms of big priorities this year, the pay and class study obviously was a big one. The last time that we did it was in 2015, and from Bob, I learned that it took a long time to implement. So we had a few special situations where we could shift some salaries around, and that's why this year you see that in some departments it's negative in salaries. This is a one-time thing that really allowed us to make a dent on the pay and class study. So in this budget, this will I hope to say 100% addressed all non-union employees for some time. And as you all know, we start negotiating with our unions in FY24. So it's going to be a good time to kind of be able to focus on the union side now. Yeah, I think that's all I have for summary.
Any questions for Fidel? Again, so I know we said that last night, said it tonight. these presentations are fantastic. You know, we, you know, a lot of us, I think, watched them through the select board and school committee, you know, kind of separately as you were going through. But there's nothing like this. This is really excellent. The level of detail, the level of, you know, kind of expertise, the town's really well served. So couldn't be more appreciative of everyone taking the time. And then on top of everything else, taking the time to do it, you know, kind of after hours. So appreciate it. Kind of leave it open. Anyone else have any kind of questions or comments for Fidel? I think we can go, right? We're done.
Nice try.
All right, so let's go into those warrants.
Into the warrant. So
We can let everyone else go that doesn't need to be here, right? Unless you guys want to see the warrant. I mean, it's riveting. It's riveting. The warrant. Different meeting. Exactly.
Not the exciting part.
Thanks so much. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, so it's 25.
Ms. Jackie, if you could pull up the warrant and go to Article 4, that would be great. So my plan is to go through the articles. I'll start with Article 4.
The new one you sent this afternoon, right? The revised.
Revision 15, yes. Yeah. The last one that I sent. So we gonna walk through the I will only focus on the articles that have to be whatever. Mike can come, but if you have any questions on any other articles, of course, let me know. So the what I sent you last night, we changed and it has impacts on Article 4 and Article 5. So I'll start with Article 4. I heard loud and clear that the free cash usage that was on the version that I sent last night was a little too gluttonous. Is that a word that I can use?
No, yeah, I like that. Gluttonous is good.
Generous.
Say aggressive.
I would just say aggressive.
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 I say gluttonous. I think I'm gonna go with that one.
So we took an opportunity today to shift some things around, and all of the work, of course, was done by Sharon. She is on Zoom. She was at a Massachusetts Municipal Accountants a conference in Amherst. So they got about 12 inches on Tuesday. So she had to drive home in the middle of a snowstorm. So she obviously is joining on Zoom and not in person tonight. So the major change is that we are going to push out the glycol reclamation item. It's $200,000. We had originally proposed it for FY23. We are going to propose it for FY24, which is in line with the $700,000 that we asked for already. And in order to balance the budget, we are going to push out the blower unit for loader for DPW from FY24 to FY25. They're roughly the same number, as you can see, 1,200 and 1,225. That's good enough. And in order to make 25 balance now, we're going to move pumper engine 2 to FY26. That's a big nugget. It is $950,000, and the plan was to buy that out of capital, so not to bond it. That is going to move to FY26, and the fire chief was comfortable with that. So that is the big change for Article 4.
So do we have that on, that we have, does Jackie have that one to share?
There is a version.
Yeah.
The warrant report one.
Report draft.
What you're sharing, Jackie, is the
Annual warrant.
PDF. If you could share the Word document, warrant report. I want to close it, actually.
Okay,
Is that truck that you pushed to FY26, the one that he said was gonna take 570 days anyway, or am I mixing it up?
So what took 550 is already on order, and it's a ladder truck.
Okay.
It's a ladder truck. That's already on order. If you recall, we came to FinCom, I want to say in my first month here, because it goes over budget.
Right, you wanted the extra 80K. No, I just, when he had just said, oh, something takes 570 days, well, if we're pushing it to FY '26. But
How long is
it's
this
different-
bundle gonna take
different-
when we order it?
different
I have no
literature,
idea.
yeah.
Right, yeah. It's probably gonna be around the same time. Thank you, Jackie. That's the right one.
Can I interject?
Yes, Sharon.
So, Fidel mentioned some of the major changes, but when we moved the pumper engine out of fiscal 25, we had excess. So had to move some things from fiscal 26 forward. So you can see that we have a couple sander trucks, a cemetery car, and a pickup truck, and some school site improvements, all being moved up from fiscal 26. In order to like fill the gap in fiscal 25, because we didn't need 950,000, but not a lot was going on in fiscal 25, but that pumper engine and some things that couldn't be moved. So by moving the 950, we had to move some things up so that we would make the proper spending amount for fiscal 25.
Go, Joe. Sorry.
Could one of you who got the updated stuff, you forgot me.
Oh,
You only emailed one Joe.
You were the lucky Joe.
So, yeah, if someone who got it, I haven't yet gotten, Jeffrey is trying valiantly with his
Here,
phone to
I got
forward it to me, but if someone could forward it to me in a way where I can actually get the attachments, that would be great, because
You get them now?
You got it? Because I could.
I got an email from you that has an attached PowerPoint, but not an attached.
There should be 3 emails to you.
Okay, me.
I
I
don't,
apologize, Mr. Joe.
what's your email, Joe?
We'll have a race. I just sent it to you, and you were in my autofill, so see if you got it.
Mine wasn't in the autofill.
He's going to have 7 copies of it.
Mine has a bunch of
I would be
attachments.
thrilled with one. Thank you. All right. Oh, it took a little while, probably because the attachments are honking huge, but I did finally get Jeffrey's that has the warrant and warrant report. Thank you. Now I'm just gonna
Yes.
prep for this meeting in the middle of
10
this meeting. Don't mind me.
megabytes.
Sorry about that.
Too many Joes.
Do you mind if I jump in? So
Yep.
I appreciate the work this afternoon for sure. I have a couple of questions. And they really do have to do with staff input. Are you comfortable moving the glycol to 24? You mentioned that public safety looked at this. So department heads looked at this and said, yes, these are appropriate things to move around.
Joe Huggins offered to be online today to answer that question. Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Joe, thanks.
So we've noticed the glycol in the high school system has been degrading over the last couple of years. And we have an outside contractor that does water treatment for us. And we've got the numbers under control right now. The numbers are not slipping back and we still have protection in the building. So I did discuss it with the assistant director and the contractor. And, we feel comfortable we can push it out another year if we have to. And we're just watching it closely. It's a monthly service that we have during the heating season to have the levels checked. So the long and short of it is we could push it out a year.
Do you mind if I?
Go ahead. I'll love you.
So just in terms of risk management, I legitimately don't know what glycol is. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about. Let's say that you're monitoring it and that monthly report comes back not good. I assume that would be perhaps a request to FinCom for reserves, or is this something that from an operational standpoint, you could act on quickly? Financially, I assume we could figure it out. We have reserves for that reason. But operationally, if you had to respond quicker than 2024, can you do that?
So the glycol is the only building that we have in the town of Reading that's fully has glycol in the heating system. It's the same as radiator fluid, if you will.
Okay.
It's basically keeps the building protected at low temperatures, below freezing, like 20 below zero. The time to do reclamation is in the summer. You could never really pump the building down and take away the old glycol and pump the new glycol in during the middle of the heating season. It can be done quickly, but just to keep in mind, it has to be done over the summer. That's when you do something like that.
Which building is it?
High school. So what what we're doing is essentially we're making this funding available in after town meeting, say in May, to making this money available on July 1st. So it's only a couple of months difference. And what Joe said is that the actual work would be done in the summertime anyways.
So this doesn't impact when you would do it, it's just a matter of when the funding comes.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
fantastic news.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe. And thank you, Jane, obviously, because I had the same conversation with Jane Kinsella about the blower unit. So, we feel confident that pushing this out one more year is not going to kill the operation.
But you're still buying the loader though?
That's correct. That's correct. Because we can use the loader for
Were you gonna sell the old Samard? Was that gonna get sold?
it's going to get sold at some point. That's right.
How much is that? Any idea what that would sell for?
I think we tossed around like $40,000. 30,000.
It's a very old unit. It would probably go for parts for somebody. I mean, it's working, but we've been putting together, manufacturing our own parts to fix it for the last few years because we can't get them anymore.
Thanks, Jane.
Any other questions? So this is related to the pieces that are in the general fund, right? That's what we're talking about now?
Article 4,
But just the general fund, we didn't
the
talk about.
capital plan.
Yep.
Can I ask about the barrels or no?
I was wondering who was gonna ask about that.
Well, that's the automated trash stuff, right?
Oh, sure.
So,
Right there.
Oh, are those that?
so the idea is to have that within the levy to borrow for 5 years and spread that out, or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's an article, I think it's article 13. So you want to wait on, to go into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I've been at a conference all day yesterday and today, so I missed kind of the discussion on this. So you were proposing to use more free cash to help out Birch Meadow, and no? To help?
No.
No, this was specifically to Article 4. This was specifically to Article 4.
Yeah,
But that is.
Birch Meadow is article.
No, I mean, we had a number for free cash that we voted and then we reapproved. And then you were just saying you were too generous with your free cash. So what do we?
In every town meeting, we have an Article 5, which is modification to the current budget, right? And
Budget.
and that's when, so the FY23 budget. And that's what we either ask for supplements, or we move things up and down. We asked for too many supplements, and we made modifications that are reflected on the latest warrant report that's point.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the skunk at this garden party. Jeffrey, when I got the warrant, I reached out to Fidel. So I was the person who initiated a conversation about Article 5. Looking back over the last 10 years, traditionally, we've used free cash mid-budget cycle for 3 reasons. One is the retirement of public safety. So there's significant sick and vacation buybacks. The other is snow and ice, right? As Sharon explained at our last meeting, we always under budget that line. And I won't go into it, you all heard it, but there's really good reasons why we do that. But what it means is if it's a bad winter, we often have to transfer in to make snow and ice work. Okay. And then the only other thing, there are occasional very small line items where it's like really unexpected. Couldn't see it coming in 2020, it was COVID. So there's like an unexpected thing that nobody saw coming and it needs to come. There were some things originally in Article 5 that were new projects that, to my mind, really belong in the budget process, in the capital planning process. So I asked Fidel if he could, for tonight, take a look at the capital plan and pare down the use of free cash for this year's. It has nothing to do with the votes we've taken for FY24. That guidance all remains. That is not touched. That isn't what this is about. This is about sort of staying consistent with how we do mid-cycle free cash transfers. that make sense?
So your concern isn't so much about the amount of money, but about the idea of introducing new projects mid-year.
Exactly. And it's a conversation. This was never meant to be like, this was a like, hey, I saw this. I'd like to have this discussion tonight. It is really a question for the committee.
So, yeah, I feel it is a discussion, in particular, since we have so much free cash. You know, I am a little reluctant to, you know, to say, oh, we're just going to push this all off if there are things that we really should be doing with that free cash that's just kind of sitting there.
Sure.
So you know, from that standpoint, you know, if it's about the money, then but that's a different question than if it's, you know, introducing things in the middle of the year.
Exactly. Do we want to start mid fiscal year saying, let's take some free cash to fund something we're not currently doing? That wasn't in the capital plan for this year. My response to that is, if there's a reason to, if there's a compelling, it has to happen. But if it's not, if it can wait 6 months, it really should be part of the traditional capital planning project process.
Okay.
But reasonable people can disagree for sure. My only other question on this, and it may be a Sharon question, I just want to confirm that this is all balanced. These numbers are all balanced. This makes sure that we're continuing to do the 5% minimum in FY 25, 26, and 27.
Sharon,
Yeah, that is true. The one thing I will say is when we put up the spending scorecard, because all these changes were made today, the capital number changed slightly, like by like $20,000 or $25,000. So, but in general, we are in balance, and I moved everything around so that each year would be in balance with the either 5.5, which we planned for fiscal 24 and 25, or 5% thereafter. So the one thing I did notice is when Jackie put up the spending scorecard, that was something I forgot to change. The number is slightly different.
So, sorry, just to beat a dead horse. So it looks to me like the big shifts between yesterday and today were the glycol, which we talked about in the previous article, and wage savings. And that's what you were just talking about, Sharon, is that right?
Yeah, so in order to bring down the use of free cash, we pushed out the glycol, but to put it in 25 meant we had to push out something from 25 out further, and it just made the whole capital plan have to shift in order to. That's why when I got to 25, I'm like, okay, I put the blower in 25, but now I have this pumper engine at 950 and it wasn't in balance. So I had to continue to move things around to get it to balance again.
Thank you for dumbing it down for me.
So do we need the fire chief to come back and tell us it's okay to move the pumper?
I asked him, I said, if you're okay with what I'm gonna present, it, it's fine. No, he's fine with it.
Does he have a 50-month or whatever it was lead time on that one as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's very likely that he does, but we're not sure.
10 years before we get it at this point.
Right.
That one I'm not sure about. Did you want to vote on each article as you go through it, or at the end?
Do we have any thoughts on that? Which one do we have to go line by line?
Article 12, which is the budget.
So my only concern about doing it is if there's something that we run into that would, I don't want to have to do something and then undo something
agree.
else. So maybe just let's go through these and then we can get comfortable, check them off the list, and then when we're done, if something has an effect on 13 versus 12 versus 5, then we'll go and do them all again.
I don't think we really did talk about the trash cans, did we?
No. Isn't it a separate article?
It is Article 14.
Okay, so this would be a good example of why we don't want to vote on this, because we're going to discuss it later. I only read the headlines about the trash cans. I'm interested to learn.
So we'll move on to Article 5. So this is again the article that moves money around, that supplements the budget, I'll say. As we talked about, we made some changes to it, and this is the latest version. I'll do some highlights. essentially, as the fire chief was explaining, we have three retirements of firefighters due to disability, and we are moving that salary to the retirement line. Tech security enhancement. So we're implementing dual factor authentication, and our insurance company requires that it be implemented by July 1st of 2023, and that is why we're asking for this money now. In admin service expenses, we were notified by our insurance company, that in 2003, when we developed the Jordan site, the old dump, essentially, we purchased pollution liability insurance in 10-year policies. So the first time that we bought it was in 2003. Next time was 2013, and it just so happens that we now have to buy it in 2023. It's a 10-year policy that covers us for pollution liability of the Jordan site, otherwise known as the dump. And our insurance company really share that there's essentially two options. One is we can buy the insurance, or we can self-insure, and for $9,000 a year, I feel like it's a good safety net to have. In J91, this is for the retirements that the police chief was sharing, which is the one lieutenant and two sergeants that are retired, and as we talked about, when retirements happen, we have to pay as long as we're given notice. We got to pay all vacation that is earned for that year. I wanted to highlight the coalition expense funded by opioid settlements. So as you know, the Attorney General's office settled with opioid lawsuits. So far, we have received about $107,000 from those settlements, and they equate to about 5 years worth of payments. They send the money up front. So how Sharon is dealing with it is that money is going to sit on a reserve account until it is being used by the coalition. So in FY23, they're going to use $21,790. So in the bottom of this article, you'll see that this number is not being pulled from free cash. It is being pulled from that opioid settlement account. And we talked about the public works expenses a little bit. There is a line item there for $85,000 in fuel. Additional fuel, but as we said earlier, that is not just fuel for DPW. It is for all town departments. And just to highlight two line items, Grove Street design it's to complete the final design on Lot 5. That would allow us to put the project out to bid. We're asking for this funding today, and then Parkview and Auburn design is related to the local match that is required with the $500,000 grant that we received from Complete Streets to do sidewalks on Parkview and Auburn Street.
Fidel, just quickly, on Grove Street, right? So we have a grant though to do the actual work. This is just the design piece?
We do not have a grant to do the work. So in Grove Street, it is Lot 5, yeah. Right? So the town purchased Lot 5. Yeah. We have gone through all the approvals now from local and state to build that parking lot. But to bid it out, essentially, we got to go from those drawings to construction drawings and put it out to bid. We do not have a grant for that project.
Oh, sorry, okay, that
No,
makes sense.
Joe, we did though, it was
Oh,
brought
I'm
up at
sorry.
ARPA, wasn't there the
Well,
hundred and
that's why I'm
fifty K
confused
that
too, yeah.
they got
so-
us for acquisition of lot 5? Did it go towards the purchase cost, or we thought,
Yeah.
we thought it was part of
Sorry, yeah, we got an earmark, yes,
an earmark? That's
from the state in FY '22. And it was for $150,000, yes, and that money was used to reduce the purchase price of the property.
So we're remembering the same thing, but it was used for something else. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you asked, because I had a note to ask that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sorry.
So the 150 that wasn't used, does that go back into ARPA? Does that go back into free cash?
So that was
ARPA didn't
an
pay for
earmark from the
lot
state.
5.
Okay, so that goes back into, we had,
It did.
We talked about it at ARPA, but remember the town meeting appropriated the 450?
okay,
So that
so,
was,
and that was out of free cash.
right, so that,
So it goes back into free cash.
I would think,
Okay,
yeah.
It already did. So it closed out in FY '22,
okay.
which was last fiscal year.
Any other questions on the items in Article 5?
So if I remember correctly, Sharon told us that interest earnings so far this year are already somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000, as opposed to the 200 that was projected originally. So we could, it seems, say, add another line here that says we have another 400,000 from interest earnings that was not in the original budget. And then we're not taking anything from free cash.
That's an interesting thought. Sharon, what do you think?
You could do that, but it's kind of the same thing. So we would have the regeneration from, the investment earnings going to free cash, or we could use the investment earnings. Either way, it's a wash. They're both kind of.
It's a wash, but it's a, we're going to ask town meeting, do you vote to spend $400,000 in free cash? And town meeting is going to say, oh, I don't know if we have enough free cash to do this or to do that. And we say, well, actually, we're going to get $400,000 extra in free cash because it's in this interest earnings that's not shown on here. I mean, we show the wages from vacancies, right? Which otherwise would just go to free cash at the end of the year, but we're showing it here. So I'm trying to understand what made the decision to put the wage savings here, but not the extra interest earnings.
To be honest, it's the first time that it is brought up as an option. It just wasn't considered.
Okay.
It's a good idea, but we just never talked.
We typically don't adjust our revenues typically
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly can, but we usually use free cash just because everything flows through free cash. And you can easily explain to them that anything that we have in regeneration goes through the free cash. So if I could put it there as investment income, and that would be fine, or we could use free cash, but either way, it would be fine. It's what you feel comfortable with.
I do think that the point about not revising revenues halfway through the fiscal year is a good idea. At the end of the year, we tie that up, but you wouldn't want to go month to month and say, oh, this was a little higher, this was a little lower.
I do agree with Jeff that we are gonna have a discussion on something that's sort of a non-issue. Like, we're not gonna use free cash
Yeah.
for this, so, and most in town meeting aren't gonna understand that unless you have it.
Unless you walk them through it and say, look, we have this 400,000 and
Even if you had a separate line here that said, estimated interest, is, even if you said 388, I do agree, it's probably more like 400 from what we were told. But even if you said that, it's kind of a non-issue.
Go ahead, Joe, go Joe and then Jean.
So I think, the strictly speaking, town meeting is voting to amend the budget, and we're not, and they don't have to amend revenues. They could just amend spending and everything would work. But I do maybe, and I don't think we have to include it in what we vote on. I don't think we have to vote on changing revenues, but I do think we need to communicate an accurate picture of where we are with revenues when we present this to town meeting. That's how I would frame it.
And I think what you're talking about is the narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was sort of where my thinking was at. And I just had a clarifying question for Jeffrey that I'm actually getting confused between FY '23 and FY '24. Is that projected interest for this current fiscal year?
so we talked with Sharon and she said as of January for this current year,
Yep.
we already have 600,000 in interest earnings.
And the revenue line was like 200,000.
And
Right.
wouldn't that be typically considered part of the 2.5 regeneration we're planning on?
Yeah.
Probably,
Well, but I mean, I'm concerned about, the 300,000, almost 400,000 that we're going to ask for town meeting
Yep.
in April. So,
What have we
I
done
think that you
historically?
might be better off saying we have historically, I
Yes.
guess I wouldn't wanna pull off a one revenue line and say, interest is up 400,000, we're gonna be fine. I think I'd rather say, historically, over the last 5 years, we've regenerated X million of dollars. Our current projections are to regenerate 2.5 million every year. We feel we can comfortably accommodate
And then on
400,000.
top of that too, the only thing that I would say is, also historically, what have we done here as far as what we spent in free, like how we've done this within free cash? Is this in line with what we've done historically, regardless of regeneration as well? So I think there's,
That's a good point.
that there's, everything that we're talking about here, unless I'm wrong, is all expense. Increasing and decreasing expense and not revenue. And I think that's, kind of an important distinction. But I think there's also an historical element of this 400 or, if it's 380 or whatever the number is, how does that compare to what we've done historically? I think it's right in line with
Yeah.
what we've done historically. So I think it's, but I understand and I agree with the narrative that if it's contentious, from a discussion in town meeting, that this context, all of that context matters, both the revenue projections, what we've done historically. I think that's, that would be the council, I think, that us, kind of as a collective would recommend that we have at the ready. I don't think it's us that's actually giving that narrative, but that's you and Sharon.
And we can do that. We can say that we are comfortable requesting this amount because of unforeseen revenues, and we can explain as an example, additional interest.
But I also think regeneration for a number of years has not come from interest. So this is something that's different.
Yeah.
And we're saying, and it's like triple what the budget was. So it's to sort of not say it is a little misleading, I think, because it's not going to impact where regeneration has come from. So, and it is a material number. So I think not to say it is not right either. I don't know how to present it, but I think we're going to stop a discussion there that might not need to happen to the degree it would. So, because people will ask,
I do think the one thing that we should all prepare ourselves for is that we have no idea what someone's going to ask on the floor of town meeting about that. But I mean, I kid. The preparation on the things that are unique in this interest, piece of it is. There's going to be questions that, like, someone's going to say, "Hey, why is that 27.5 for Grove Street design?" You know what I mean? Like, that's the level of, and so, I mean, I don't envy
well, people-
Sharon and Fidel's position as far as them being able to talk to each one of those line items.
I think the budget's got a huge use of free cash this year.
Yes.
So it's not going to happen to the extent that's been presented. So I think that's important to say,
I think that's really, that gets back to, the stuff that we started with, and talking about what the number looked like before.
Yeah.
Is we wanted to at least ask the question to make it more in line with what we've done historically. Granted, but Mark, your point is spot on. And it's a nagging concern on my end is the use of free cash for operating versus capital.
And I was just gonna make that point. When I look at this, unless I'm missing something, I see all one-time expenses. So regeneration can clearly comfortably accommodate this. It is in line with what we've done historically. And I don't see us building anything into the budget that we're gonna have to pay for again next year. You said that insurance policy is a 10-year plan? I mean, that's a once-in-a-decade expense. So
Yep.
I'm very comfortable with this.
Yeah, and we do a PowerPoint, as you know, in town meeting. We can definitely point to additional revenues in that.
Yeah.
And by the way, and so the other thing that I'll say, well, so on this one, this isn't a line by line one. This is one that we would vote on. And so the other thing that I would say is whoever gets assigned this to be able to give the FinCom report, I think it's that is, whoever has this, this is the type of color that you can give with our vote. And so I think, and again, not to say that we're going to take you off the hook. We don't want to do that. That's not what we're here for. No, but I think that's the level of, I think of color that we should provide. Is that, a little, not just we voted 8-0, that kind of stuff, like having a little bit more of this discussion and, the reasons why we voted the way we voted, I think is the piece that we should always take away when we do this, when we give a report.
If I can add, you've mentioned.
No, you can't. No, sorry.
I think another, in anticipating town meeting potentially having a oh my gosh, another $400,000 of free cash. We've already done so much. My response would be, historically over the last 10 years, this is completely consistent with what we've done with Article 5. We often have retirements in public safety that we fund out of free cash. Snow and ice, knock on something so far. It's been a good, but this is very consistent with what we've done. So I think that would help in helping town meeting members understand that this feels very typical to me of how we've done things in the past.
Do you know how much it was last year, Fidel?
Not top of my head, no, sorry.
I'm not sure it's been this much.
I can tell you, I did the research today.
Yeah.
About half of the years over the last 10, it's been 0. Some years it's been more than this. I think the average is around 300.
I don't know, do you really think like this is gonna garner the attention of versus Article 14? I think the bigger amounts are gonna be what people spend their.
Oh, you never know, Mary Ann.
I was gonna say.
You never know.
There's always someone.
I would defer to Ed. Anyone trying to predict what will be the hot.
Right.
it's-
We
it's
passed
a
Killam
little-
with no debate, and we spent how
Exactly.
long on the cemetery dogs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Impossible to.
Yep. There
And,
you
and
go.
actually, to just bring us back, I think it's important to not get too hung up on the politics of it. Our job is really to sell this to town meeting. Our job is to do what we know to be in the best long-term financial interest of the town.
Yeah.
Vote your conscience, right? Like that's sort of where I'm at, is
Yeah, and again, I think that's the one piece that I always come back to, and it's a good reminder because you can get kind of lost in it to sometimes. This is our recommendation based on a number of different, and for the 8 of us, we may vote in unison or we may vote in a majority, but we all might have our own reasons for being able to do that. And again, I think that's, and we don't ever, and maybe we should collaborate on what we say in our FinCom report. But that, if someone gets assigned one of these and is like, I'm kind of struggling with whatever, I think that's one of the things that we should leverage is our expertise to be able to say, so that when we're delivering that to town meeting, I'll always recall this in Jeffrey's interview when he's like, you guys always vote 9-0. He's like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean it. And so I think that's, I now kind of carry that as in the back of my mind, that when we give that report, that there's something more than a majority, and there's more to it. And I think we're doing the very best that we can do for town meeting when we give that color.
Exactly. So my concern is that when we get to Article 14, people are going to say, well, we can't spend more free cash on this because we just spent 400,000 in Article 5. And I'm going to say, well, if we say, no, we didn't, if we say, look, it all balances out in Article 5, and then we say, hey, we haven't used any extra free cash, we get to Article 14 and there won't be as much, I think it'll be a different discussion to say,
I think
oh
also,
no, more free cash.
I think, and again, we're not getting into the politics of it, but different things like with Killam, I tried to give the explanation, but that was, I think everyone kind of saw that as a need versus a want, and I think even in this article, a lot of these are clear. These are projects in processes, the things we need. I'm not saying Birch Meadow is not a need, but people could look at that and say, a pavilion could wait 2 more years. It's not a safety hazard,
Yeah.
So people might, or just, it's not just the big amounts, but it's also, it's not it may be perceived as not as much as a need as some other items. again, that's that's already crossing me beyond our,
Oh, no.
you know.
No, I was, yeah.
Go ahead, Emily, yeah, sure.
So I want to pivot, although I do agree that the color you gave for Killam, I think really helped kind of spur people away from some questions that maybe that would be helpful here. But I have a specific question for probably Sharon. Between this morning's draft report and this evening's draft report, there were two big swings. I just wanted to get some clarity on how that was. So in B99, it was an $80,000 swing on the pending retirements, and then there was a $100,000 swing in the wage savings. I just wanted to get clarity where those came from, because that, 180,000 swing it reduced the free cash to a level I felt great about, but I was just confused.
Let me take a step at it first. So I think it's kind of similar to Jeffrey's point, right? I mean, we saw where our wage projections were, right? The first stab was a more conservative view, right? We took a more aggressive view, if you will, and reduced what we increased what we're giving back. If we don't use that money, it's going to go to free cash, right? So in similar fashion, in public works wages, we reviewed, for example, how much we project to use until the end of the fiscal year. We saw a gap, right, a delta, and we in the first go around, it was a very soft, kind of $50,000 is safe, right? This morning, in order to reduce the sting of the free cash number, we went further into it. It's not like by not giving this back, now we're going to use that money. We can't, right?
Yeah.
It's only allowed in public works salary. So that money would have rolled into free cash anyways. Sharon, I don't know if you have anything else.
So I wanted to kind of clarify, the first question had to do with the 180,000 that we were proposing to move to the benefits line. And we traditionally do that when we have a police or firefighter that is going out on a disability retirement. So while they're out injured, they stay on our budget and we continue to pay them, and we pay overtime to cover their shifts. So it becomes clear that the individual is actually going to be a disability retirement. We've been, when these things come up, we've been moving those salaries for those folks out of that fire budget into a benefits line item that we fund, so that you could free up enough budget for them to hire those positions again. They'd have some budget available to start hiring. When this number, was kind of questioned today, I had said to Fidello on Thursday, I don't know that he's going to be able to spend all that money anyway, even though we do have these two people coming out. It would just go back to free cash. I think we could probably reduce that number. Even though typically we give you the whole amount of the salary that you paid for the year for those folks that are going out, just to free it up so that he's got, overtime is trending high when you have people who are out for extended period on disability. And so he usually needs the money for overtime, but also have some budget available to start hiring those positions once they realize that that individual is not coming back. So that's what that first line was originally about. But because we're so close to the end of the year, we determined that he probably wouldn't use all of it. And so we brought it down to 100,000. And then as Fidel had said, we had done projections about what kind of savings we were looking at in each one of our departments related to salaries, because it tends to be a big area for regeneration, and we seem to have a lot this town meeting that needed to be funded. So we looked to dip into that to reduce the use of free cash, so that we could, not have such a stunning number there, because it made me nervous as well. I mean, we've used a lot of free cash, and I know we have a lot of free cash, but it is the number was shocking that we had for the first run through. So I'm kind of glad that we did reduce it. At the same time, we are taking regeneration that would have been in the wage area some of it, we were taking some of it down, so you might not see as much regeneration as we would have seen in the past. The other thing I wanted to add is a kind of important point is that a lot of times at April town meeting, last year we had a $428,000 free cash use in April town meeting. But typically, a lot of the money that we use at town meeting comes from like excess that we've identified in benefits. This year we had a health insurance premium negotiated into the contract for 1 month. So that took a lot of the excess we might have normally had in health benefits away from us. So we didn't have that as a trigger. We have some excess there, but not as much as what we typically have seen, because it is one of those line items that we have to budget somewhat conservatively. And then as we know what the real number is, we use it as a funding source. It wasn't there this year as much because we had that 1 month health insurance premium for the employees, and it was funded by the town, whereas in the past Maya had funded premiums for us. This was the first one that the town was going to bear the cost of.
Super helpful. Thank you so much, Sharon.
All right, let's move on. What's the next one?
Article 7.
Article
So,
7?
Article 7 should be pretty straightforward. Article 7 is the OPEB article, right, where we asked town meeting to confirm our OPEB funding. We, in the FY23 budget, we went back to $500,000 annually in OPEB, and we will continue doing that. So no changes there. That is one number that we did not touch. So that is, that's about that. Okay. The next article related to FinCom is going to be Article 9, which is revolving funds. This has to.
Sorry. That point about the pension fund, like someday being fully funded, I'm assuming after last year, we're much further away now, right? Where the markets were, so.
Sharon, I think it's 2031 that we're targeting. Sharon, is that right? Is that still right?
We've got 2
Fully
years.
funded for pension liabilities?
For pension liabilities, we're fully funded in 2031.
I think prior to that, it was 2029. I again, we, in FY22, we lowered it, and that coupled with the other thing, I think it just moved it out a year or two.
Yeah, we were forced by PERIC to bring our discount rate down to 7% from 7.65. It created like a $10 million increase to our liabilities. So, and we were so close to being fully funded, it was a huge hit year to year, because we're, 2029 was what we were aiming for. So there wasn't a lot of years to spread that over. So it forced us to push out a couple of years to make it not as painful.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Great. So Article 9 is annually town meeting has to vote on revolving funds. There is nothing new in this article, and the on the spreadsheet that's on the article is essentially the same line items that have been approved by town meeting with the same expenditure limits and allowed expenses. Great. We'll go to
Any questions on 9? Just to be safe. Nope.
You want me to ask one?
No, I can't. If you'd like to, Joe, yeah, I mean, with your streak, we like to get your streak up if we can.
I assume that we'll skip Article 12, which is the budget, and that is the one that we'll vote using the spending scorecard.
Yep.
At the end of this meeting. Which leads me to Article 13, trash barrels.
Let's go.
10?
So yes, you're right. I skipped 10. So
Housing trusts.
the Affordable Housing Trust. If you recall, we in November town meeting we modified the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This article is only here because we have a home rule petition that is pending in order to dissolve the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I was really hoping that the home rule petition would be passed by town meeting, but the legislature with a new with a new session and new folks, they just started to restructure. So it most likely it will not be passed by town meeting.
So do we have, so this get tabled? Oh, we can't table this
We
one.
can't table it. We got to vote on it.
So we would vote on 10.
We will vote on 10.
Okay.
And just to be clear, a vote on 10 keeps the status quo until the new legislation kicks in. Perfect, thank you.
All right, transferals?
Uh,
Go ahead, Jane.
we're not weighing in on Article 11, the Special Education Revolving Fund.
So there is no requirement for you to. This is a school committee article.
It all comes from they set aside money from their budget each year, is what my understanding of it, right?
That's their budget.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, as a finance committee, should we say that we recommend to town meeting that they do or do not?
It does seem
approve
pretty,
this?
So,
I would-
sorry, what the article is to create the fund, right? It is not to allocate any money. So actually who's weighing in on it is the bylaw committee. Because there's two components to it. One is to we gotta accept a Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 13E. By accepting that, then we're able to create the fund. So it's more of a procedural matter as opposed to allocating funding to it. So today.
So, yeah, so if this could, I would never happen at this kind of speed, but 11 could be to establish it, 12 could have been to fund it, and we would talk about 12.
That's right. There is no 12 in this town meeting, but
Exactly. Yep, yeah, so if that comes, then to Jeffrey's point, then that would be something that we would give.
So my understanding was that they were the school committee was thinking to fund it with any funds that normally they would return to free cash at the end of this fiscal year. So do they not get to do that because town meeting will not have voted on that funding as of the end of this fiscal year?
So how the law works basically is that the school committee is the body that decides to put money into it. It is not town meeting. And thus the only source would be, their year-end savings. So
to Ed's scenario, there wouldn't be an Article 12 to put money in it because it's the school committee that's putting it in and it never comes before town meeting.
Right, and maybe.
Unless
town meeting was.
Yeah, unless the goal was to fund it initially outside of their budget.
Okay, yeah.
Outside of their budget. But it sounds like in their scenario that it's established and then they'll do it.
I mean, if you look at tomorrow's school committee packet, they have a quarterly financial report and they're already running at least a 200K surplus in the SPED account. So I would imagine that if that persists in the fourth quarter, like that would be what rolls into it anyway. Because they prepay their tuition like they normally do, and then they still have that bit of extra. So that's the perfect place to park it, I guess, for the first time, if we approve it. Or it would be in town meeting, not FinCom.
Go ahead, Jane.
So I'm generally supportive of, cards on the table, I'm supportive of this. Like, I'm comfortable with this plan. I'm struggling a little bit with FinCom not doing a report on it.
So I think it has to do with what question is being posed to town meeting. Town meeting is not being asked whether to move any money. Town meeting is being asked whether to accept this provision of Mass General Law.
But moving forward, instead of this money flowing to free cash automatically, which is what happens now, where town meeting has authority over it, if we approve this, we are basically taking the authority away from town meeting and handing it to the school committee. And again, as personally, I'm very comfortable with it because of I think there's a lot of reason the site law exists, and I'm supportive of it. But I feels like something FinCom should weigh in on.
So
If you would like to vote on it, well.
That's, yeah.
There's nothing
Right.
for it. It's just not required.
my understanding of the, school budget is it's sort of, there's a kind of a black box aspect to it in the sense that they can move things around in it. And they gave us a nice presentation 2 weeks ago because we approved the, sum total of the entire thing. But the part where they told us about anything inside was a courtesy to get us to approve the sum total of the entire thing. They could decide, the first week of the next fiscal year to move things around in there, and they wouldn't need to ask us. So
That is
I think
a complete.
yes. So that money wouldn't have to go back to free cash. If they'd had that surplus, they could have moved it around to something else. In practice, they don't. They let it go back to free cash.
What they cannot do now is hold it to fund future unanticipated needs. So yes, they can use it in the current year's budget, but this is a very different thing. I'll defer to the
They could
committee.
still return some money to free cash anyway. They could, because there's a limit to how much they can fund this to as a percentage of the budget. But I guess that because there is that bridge always between the school budget and the rest of us, that excess comes back, so maybe it does, the town meeting would care.
And I'm maybe being sensitive to, I wouldn't want no vote of FinCom to suggest we don't support it. I have no idea how the other of you feel about this, but I wouldn't want it to be, I don't know.
So,
I say we take a vote, but I'm perfectly fine. If there is an agreement on that, I'm fine not. I'm pretty.
Well, it's almost like it's two things you're saying, Gene. One is setting up the fund. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But then when it gets funded, you almost want that there's got to be visibility to that and some sort of approval.
The school committee would completely own that. Yep.
Yeah. But right now, like, in reality, it could be zero going to free cash once this is approved and no one can say anything.
Unless it's beyond the limits.
Yeah.
Right.
The 2% of annual net school spending.
so actually that reminds me that wording there, I mentioned at school committee that they've got they left out something. It says shall not exceed the lesser of 2% of the net annual school spending amount. Or what?
940.
940.
But the article doesn't mention 940. 940 is mentioned in the background. It is not mentioned in the article.
I think 940 is included, I'm guessing is included in the narrative to give you like a sense of what that amount
Yeah,
would be.
but what I'm saying is the article is misworded because it doesn't, it's the lesser of 2% or something
Yes.
else. And they
Lesser
were
of
thinking about,
2%.
like the school committee wanted to set up their own thing.
It's
because state
grammatical
law
lesser of
says
2% and something else.
Oh, gotcha.
And the something else is omitted from the article. Yeah, and I think you're right.
And I mentioned that at school committee and they said they were gonna fix it, and I thought they did
Exceed
fix
the
it. but-
lesser of 2%, and then there's like the missing clause.
Or the amount established by the school committee, which might be
But-
less than 2%. The state law is 2%.
So does the select board have to revote
Oh,
on
no.
this wording? Is it error?
I think we'll fix it. I don't know. I'll talk to
Someone will make a friendly amendment, right? And fix it?
yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, there is some concern that this not become the school committee slush fund, right? That they wanted to set up some limit and they were thinking maybe it wouldn't be 2%, which is the state maximum.
Right.
Maybe it'd be something else, and they hadn't quite come up with what that was gonna be at the time the school committee was discussing it.
But they may want that flexibility into the article that they could do it either way. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thoughts on voting for this?
Sure.
Oh, Joe, I thought you were going to be the one that holds out. You eloquently defended the other side of it, and now all of a sudden you just folded like a lawn chair.
Do we vote when, we voted on like affordable housing test, is there anything else that FinCom has ever voted that's been created like this? I mean, I know Affordable Housing Trust Fund is part of town budget, but we're still, has there been any, we don't vote on the creation of other school revolving accounts.
We'll vote on it.
Yeah.
We'll vote on it, and Gene's gonna have to talk about it. That's how we sell this. Gene's, I'm already writing your name next to it, Gene.
That's what I get. I asked for it.
Unless we vote not to recommend it to town meeting. What happens then, Gene? What happens then?
I'm
She has to
delighted to
explain
take a
them that you
dissenting,
can
I'll
vote
take the
at the
dissenting vote.
All right, here we go. All right,
so-
round of 12. Trash barrels.
14.
13 transfer.
Number 13. We already talked about 12?
Lucky
12 's the
13.
budget.
We're skipping 12 because we passed
How does spending scorecard?
Next to it for proportion.
Wait, though, aren't we getting two? Because didn't they say the seniors complained that some people wouldn't be able to lug a big full one?
Complaining, pointing out that.
Or is that one too big?
Already kind of heavy. I'm call it complaining and I would include myself in that group, and I'm not a senior yet. That one's a big one. That's a real big one.
Oh, so that's still, I thought they were the same size.
And so people with apartments, well, I know they have dumpsters. They don't have to fit that in their houses. Well, people.
And that's a whole
Not
issue,
everyone has
right? That they have
dumpsters.
to pay taxes even though they're not, they also have to pay separately for the trash. But that's
Well, I'm
not,
thinking,
All right, well, let's go through the, let's let Fidel explain it to us first, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritties.
All right, so Article 13, it is to borrow $900,000, and it is in the background, you'll see that it is to borrow $900,000 to purchase one 64-gallon rubbish cart and one 64-gallon recycling cart for each residence. We presented this to the select board twice. We did get some feedback. We are having a public forum on this on March 27th at 6 p.m. in this room. And you know, the reason why we're entertaining this is when Trashgate happened, we called a lot of competitors, a lot of other companies, and essentially what they're saying is that for the most part, the big companies in particular were requiring new customers to go to automated trash pickup. Right, so Jane Kinsella lives in Methuen. They did it. We rolled out trash barrels in Chelsea. I want to say maybe 3 years ago. Lynn has it. So you know, a lot of communities are going to standardized carts. There's a lot of I think a lot of financial benefits. There's also a lot of soft benefits, and in the presentations that we give to the select board, having a rugged trash carts that have a lid on it, you know, water is not getting into it. It's easier for the employees to handle it. It's more ergonomic, right? So even in the not fully automated version, the trucks have a tipper in the back, and the employees drag the barrels. They essentially the trucks have a little hand. They pick them up, they dump them, and they put them down. So it is definitely a safer operation. Rodents obviously is another big one. Today, if you drive down the street, the types of trash barrels are all over the place, right? Some trash barrels are like this, right? So some residents have bought this. Other residents have, you know, have the old style metal cans, right, with no wheels. I've seen Tupperware. Right? I've seen Tupperware out there, and I'm not lying. Like, it's basically like big Tupperware where they put it out, and so the standardizing has I think aesthetics components to it. Certainly rodent control components to it. So far, the main feedback that I received is that the 64-gallon barrel is too big for some residents. So what we have been doing essentially is anytime they call, I meet them here and I show them the options. Right. I personally believe that those are going to be. It's not going to be the majority of residents who are going to take the smaller barrel. I think the
big one is 64 and the smaller one.
No, so these are two smaller options. So there's a 64-gallon option. There is a 48-gallon option, which is that one, and then there's a 32-gallon option, which is the one at the end.
64 must be huge.
I was gonna say, it's a little, it's a bit of an indictment that the 64 doesn't fit here in the room with the smaller examples.
No, it's a big room. So just to put it into perspective, right? So the other communities have gone very aggressive with regards to limiting trash, right? And just issuing 32-gallon buckets, right? Keep in mind that today our current trash contract allows for up to 120 gallons of trash to be put out by every home, right? So today, and I've seen it, some residents put out two 64 barrels of trash, right? That is allowed, and it has been our practice. You know, while I hear the concern about this is too big. We certainly have a lot of community members that are doing it. Chris, in his presentation to the select board, basically had a graph of the average, basically over the last 5 years, and the average gallons per household per week is about 62 gallons of trash per week for the average resident. Not you know, obviously there's a band, right? Some low, some more, but the average is 62 or the 60s. And again, we're doing a public forum on March 27th. Please join us.
Yes.
Are the recycling and the trash gonna be the same color or different, so people will kind of know, put the right one in the right place and, or?
They will be different. We haven't quite decided whether, some communities have the same body, but a different top, right? So the body is always black, for example, or always gray, but a recycle barrel has a blue top and a trash barrel has a black top. That's one option. Another option is to have cars that are completely different colors. So the recycle barrel is entirely blue, and the trash barrel is entirely black. So we haven't quite worked out all the details. We are going to put out a survey ahead of town meeting that gets a sense of how many residents are going to take this 32-gallon barrel. We're asking town meeting for approval so we can start doing the outreach and stuff like that. The barrels themselves have about a 3 to 4 month lead time. So this rollout won't be happening anytime soon.
Good, Joe.
So I have many questions as a town meeting member, and I'm not going to ask any of them because I know that we're actually supposed to just be discussing tonight's FinCom. For FinCom, I think the question that, so I mean, I've seen the select board presentations. I understand that, like, it's a lot of companies won't give us a trash. We have a trash, a rubbish contract coming up in 3 years. A lot of companies wouldn't give us a new contract at any price unless we do automation. Some might do it at a totally outlandish price. And so it's not a question of like, will the town do this? It's a question of when the town will do this. And so my question is, why are we doing it now and not at the last possible second before we have to, because we'd rather keep that money?
I mean, there's many ways I can answer that. When is another trash gate going to happen? Right? So that's always in the back of my mind, right? Another one is we definitely want to do a good rollout, right? Not a rollout under crisis, right? So that's the giving us the time to do public outreach, to answer all the questions, to do flyers, right? As opposed to like us doing things under crisis, right? It's always good. The trash contract goes up. It's up in 2026. In terms of the hauling contract, the disposal is up in 2025. So both are hopefully going to be impacted by this rollout in terms of lowering the tonnage as well. So if we wanted to do this, as part of a new trash contract, if I'm the trash company, I'm probably charging you a lot more.
So the idea is that while the collection contract that involves trucks with robot arms picking these things up, that contract's in 2026, but rolling out fixed size barrels may impact the amount that we need to pay for in the disposal contract in 2025. So direct effect there. I mean, even if we don't change the limit.
Yeah, I think that it would impact the tonnage.
Yes, exactly. That's it, right.
Yeah.
If you give everyone 164, counting might, because the average, the average is, I see it's 57.3 here. You said 62. I'm not a statistician, but I know enough to know that the average doesn't tell you anything unless you know the distribution. Like, so is that one person, with 1 million tons of trash, and then everyone no, it's something, but how is it spread around that average? Because if a lot of people are within, 5 gallons of that average, that means there's a bunch of people at 65. That's going to be awkward. But maybe that's fine. Maybe those folks will find a way to throw away 1 gallon less every week, and that'll work out in the town's favor when we have our disposal contract in 2025.
Yeah, and the idea is not necessarily that we will limit people's trash. The idea is that you will get one trash barrel for free.
Yes.
The second trash barrel will come at a cost. And we as part of this rollout, we would also implement trash bags, right? So they're called overflow bags, right?
Right. So the 120 gallon limit would remain, but we would put some incentives in the form of it would be more convenient to throw out less than 64 gallons of trash a week.
and cheaper.
That makes sense to me.
Joe, did you have a question? I thought you said you had.
That's probably the last one. Mine's really quick though, I promise. It's like the 900,000, so that's based on an assumption that there'd all be 64 gallons, but obviously you could have some room there, right, if you go.
Yeah, and the $900,000 also has a little bit of room to allow for some future stock as well.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
That was my first question. My second question was, in the background, there's a difference in the number of trash versus recycling. Is that why? And then another question that's gone. My brain is not working right now. So that's my first question.
I know there is a reason why, and it's in Chris Cole's presentation. I think it's in the number of units, but I'll get back to you on that one. Why there's more recycling than trash? I know there is a reason for that.
Something else about
Gene, did you have a question?
Nope.
Go ahead, Mark.
What's the cost that people have to buy?
So so the cost to us for one barrel is about $50, right? So it's roughly $50. But the what other towns do, and Jane Kinsella and Chris Cole have done a ton of work on this. They looked at essentially all the communities around us, who's doing something, who's not doing something, what are they charging for an extra cart. So what we're seeing is that it's about $150 a year, $150 a year, and that covers the trash barrel, but also covers supplements the trash fee, the trash disposal fee.
So it's not a one-time fee then?
It's an annual. It's an annual. Yeah, and eventually, you know, and we're trying to do it slow, right? Like we'll roll them out. We'll do some training. We'll do some audits kind of thing. And eventually, we're probably going to tell the trash company, whichever trash company that is, to only pick up town barrels.
And you'll have them marked some way so somebody can't go and buy a second one on their own and
Yeah.
sit it out there.
Yeah. They come with the town CEO, and they say the town of Reading on it, and all that good stuff. They're pretty.
Sound like very pretty trash cans.
Go ahead, Emily.
In terms of future, if we get these town barrels, is there going to be budget for replacing them? As you know, I have almost that identical barrel on the left, and it got run over by one of the trash trucks a couple weeks ago, and so like stuff like that happens, right? So will there be budget, maybe not 900,000, but for replacement of destroyed barrels or new residents coming into town or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there definitely would be. This is we're hoping to get approval so that we could do the rollout sometime in the next 12 months, right? So this is a FY25 budget request, if at all, because we're asking for $900,000, which is going to give us a little buffer, right? So in the first year, probably we're going to be okay.
I can't believe I'm asking this, but you would know if this was a problem. Do people, given that all the barrels are identical and that there's a value to them and people don't want to pay, people don't steal each other's barrels. Like, would you barcode them or like, I mean, if someone put out their barrels and then someone just took them so that in another part of town, I can have 3 barrels. I'll just go find the barrels I need because they're all identical. Like, is that a problem? Do people steal the barrels?
I can tell you a lot of stories about this in Chelsea. So
It does happen? Okay.
It happens all the time. But no, so they do come up with a chip. So they have an RFID chip on them, and when
Like, find my trash barrel.
it's a passive chip. It's not a satellite track.
Wouldn't that be cool though? All right, I gotta patent that.
It's a passive chip. Like, basically, you need a scanner. So you scan it, and when the trash company, the trash company hands it out, they say, "I gave Marianne card number 1, 2, 3," and they give us a spreadsheet that's basically card 1, 2, 3 was given to. So and as you can see, they all have a unique identifier on it.
Yeah.
And they do have a chip. we also have the option of on the top and on the lid, basically have a white bar, and residents can write their address on them. So like, 13 Emerald's Way.
Yeah,
Write it
that
in,
make-
and that-
No, I lived in a condo thing. We would spray paint the number on our barrel, so it would be
Exactly.
pretty obvious if someone else had it or if it blew away.
So why is, given that the recycling average was 23.5 gallons, why are we getting 64 gallon recycling bins?
The,
Incentivizing.
trying to encourage it.
Is that eternal?
For sure. Also recycling is more voluminous.
But you're measuring by volume, not by weight. You said 23 gallons, so.
Yeah, no,
Definitely, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, if I'm recycling 10 gallons of cardboard boxes, having a 64-gallon barrel to do it in actually sounds kind of nice.
And
Because they're not.
it doesn't weigh much, right?
They're not a
It's just-
beer.
it's just beer.
But you crush them, you can pack them.
Yeah, I see what you're right there.
We crush them every week.
So
Holding
question,
cost.
so this isn't getting into the FY24 budget, it's just getting approved.
Or it's,
So where's the funding coming from?
So it is in the capital plan. It is part of your Article 4. But it would be borrowed at some point in FY24 and then it would impact the budget in FY25.
Yeah.
Is that the last financial?
Any other questions on trash?
Okay.
it's Birch Meadow.
Oh, and then the citizen ones too. Yeah, Birch Meadow, goodness.
All right,
All right,
on to 14.
on to 14. Ms. Jackie, could you pull up that PowerPoint that I
Oh,
sent
that's the
out?
one you sent,
Yeah.
yeah.
That might be
And that kind of conveyed
the easiest.
where the
way.
cost increase
Yeah.
came from.
So I'll quickly go through the PowerPoint. So essentially, as you all know, ARPA gave $1.5 million. It was based on a cost estimate that was done, a few months prior to when we went to ARPA. In early January, the architect told us basically that they foresaw the project coming in around $2.2 million. So they did warn us. What we did is we divided the bid. We divided the roadway portion, infrastructure we're calling it, and the pavilion portion. They're also governed by two separate Mass General Law procurement laws. So and the tradespeople that do the parking lot are going to be different than the ones that do the pavilion. So it made sense. So the infrastructure component, one big one is the parking lot, right? So Imagination Station parking lot. One big one is
It burns me up every time you call it the Imagination Station parking lot.
the reimagination parking lot. How's that? The reimagined parking lot? No.
So not many people
gotta have a
remember
name.
it. I mean, it was here when I moved here, but no.
The Imagination Station was a gorgeous playground, and now we're calling it a parking lot. Some
You
people-
paved paradise to put in a.
Right.
The parking lot in front of the Coolidge. How's that? Yeah. So this, we had a lot of discussions about this parking lot. We CPDC was very involved in the process. We feel really good about the safety improvements that are going to be made with this parking lot. I think it's going to be a huge upgrade. Next slide, please, Jackie. Also, is the spine, right? Which is that walkway. So you see, and the lacrosse wall, which is the square that's right above the red circle. The red circle is the pavilion, right? So that I just wanted to give you a sense, essentially, of what we're talking about. Next slide, please. In terms of the pavilion, right? That's what it looks like. I think it's going to be really functional. It's not a very it's a very functional building, I'll say. Next slide, please, Jackie. And what it gives us basically is it gives us 2 toilets, which in the drawing we're saying unisex. It gives us a big storage room, right? And that's what that has been a big discussion point in terms of, storage for recreation for the teams, et cetera, and 2 storage closets in the back. It also gives us a covered pavilion area that we're going to have picnic areas in. Next slide, please. So at the select board meeting, I presented 3 options. One was to do the infrastructure only. The other one was to do the infrastructure building, and then the third was to do the building. But after talking to staff, I don't think we would want to do the building and not do the infrastructure. So I took that off the table. So really, the option that we have is we do the infrastructure only. And as you can see on these tables, I did include some construction administration, which is basically our architect, and contingency, because we want to go in and ask for this once. So yeah, essentially infrastructure only or infrastructure and building. And as you can see at the bottom is the town meeting request for each one of those options. Next slide, please. So what the question is going to be, how do we fund this, right? So we found some overages at the select board meeting. I did talk about the Parker Middle School roof. That was a very different story, and we do have some nice wiggle room there. We can move $600,000 from that project to this project, and it asked me if that was okay bond wise or accounting wise. We have verified and got that in writing. So yes, that's okay. Perfect. We also have overage in the police department renovation project. So we have $180,000 left over there. So that gives us $780,000. So the question is, how do we fund the rest? So I laid out some additional potential funding sources, not in order of priority or in order of recommendation. Just a few things that I thought about. It's what I thought about. Not necessarily all the options. So the first one is the sale of real estate. We foreclosed on 2 properties in the last 6 months. That gave us a net of $630,000. That money is available to be used. The last time we used this money was to buy Simon's Way, the property on Simon's Way. We used it. That's the last time that we used these funds. In the last town meeting in November, we went to move some money related to the 40R district incentive bonus. So essentially, every time we build a housing unit in the 40R district, the state gives us an incentive, which is roughly $2,100 per unit. So that has added up. We've never used that money before. We have $917,000 in there. The only restriction is that it has to be used for a capital project. So it can be used to supplement the operating budget, which obviously this is a capital project. And we also have $375,000 in the Burbank Ice Arena account. We use that to purchase Simon's Way as well. And of course, the last one is free cash. So that's it for presentation. I did want some.
So quick question, just Jackie, can you keep that slide up? So on those additional potential funding sources, I'm just curious. So first, on the sale of real estate account, was that 0 before, and then the foreclosures brought it to 630? Was there?
I think there was some money in there, but it wasn't significant. I want to say it was like $34,000.
And then the 40R incentive account, that has had money in it for several years, and it's just grown over time. So out of curiosity, and again, not that I don't even know why I'm asking this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Why didn't we use either one of those when Grove Street came up? And as far as how to, can you not buy land?
But Grove Street, it wasn't a capital project yet. It was buying land, like you said.
So, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I thought the state 40R incentive money was supposed to mitigate the effects of the 40R things. And so, yeah, you can't put it in an operating budget, but say it could go towards Killam, right? If the 40R projects were bringing more kids to the school, or it could go towards improving the streets that are in front of the 40R projects, where the sewers are.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I just was curious about that. And then lastly, on the Burbank account, and I know I've heard kind of different discussions about it, and it's a little bit unclear. Is there any specific, kind of mandate, like that it's got to be tied to rec, or anything like that? Is there anything that's specifically stipulated in there, or is it just more a little bit open-ended?
Sharon would know the history a lot more. What I've heard in my time here is that the intent was to do something related to recreation. It is really up to town meeting to move. But
Which account are you referring to? Which account are you referring to?
Burbank, Sharon.
So, when I started, the Burbank Ice Arena used to be used as a funding source to help with the operating budget. But a few years into me being here, they needed to do a lot of capital work and they weren't going to be able to turn over as much money, and we just stopped using it. So the purpose of the funds could be practically anything, I guess. But we have been using it to, to supplement our revenues in the operating budget.
So that 375 is a couple years worth, right? It's not that we could,
Yeah.
okay.
It's very up and down. The ice arena pays us based on a lease, and there's a calculation of how much they pay, and it really is kind of what's left over after they have a certain amount of money put aside for capital and all their expenses. So it's very up and down what we get from Burbank. It's not a consistent amount.
Any other questions for Fidel?
Just quickly on the Parker Middle School, has the roof been done yet?
No. So the roof, we're under contract for a contractor. We're just waiting for the summertime. Joe Huggins is keeping a 30% contingency on that project to be healthy, and also keeping a few other things that we want to do.
So even after all of that, 600 is still left over.
Even after keeping 30% contingency and a few other things. I'm not sure if Joe is still on, but that's the number that we feel good about.
That's good. Jean, then Joe.
Do either of you know off the top of your head what interest rate we borrowed at for the Parker Middle School?
I think that was the press release. Go ahead, check.
0.87.
What was that?
0.87.
1.87?
1%.
Free money.
Okay. Oh, wow. What would happen if we don't use that overage?
We would have to use it for something.
We have to use it for something because we borrowed for it. So we have to kind of reclass that to something, a like-kind project that has a similar or greater debt offering life.
Which is great. At under 1%, I sure as heck want to use all of it. That's great.
Yeah, I'm thinking, but we'd have to use it. It would just sit there if we didn't reclass it out. So we definitely want to use it, and it seems like it makes sense to do it for this project.
Thank you.
Good, Joe.
For the Burbank Ice Arena account, do we know that, can they take that money back, or is it moves their account? So if they have a capital need, they have their own reserves, or, so, okay.
Yeah, no, they can't take it back. What we get each year is what's left over after they do all their capital, after they have all their reserves set aside based on the agreement that we have.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Mary.
Can you go to the previous slide, the budget update? And I confess, I haven't gotten through the entire select board meeting, so maybe you answered this question. So when the part with the Belco bid that says base plus 3 alternates, that's covering the central spine paths and the parking lot? So where did the big cost increase arise in this project? Was it the paths? Was it the parking?
It was inflation. It was inflation. It was, yeah, it was, and the architect in January, before we went out to bid and after they had done their full design, basically said, things are through the roof. You know what I mean? What cost $1 million a year ago is costing $2 million now. Yeah, it is inflation. It's a supply chain. There were no, nice to haves that we added, or, or the pavilion is now twice as big as it was before. Yeah, it's just.
Okay, no, I just didn't know if there was, maybe with the wetlands thing, if something was discovered or.
No, we made some tweaks, basically like in the first go around, we were designing smaller parking lot, but it wasn't anything that was the reason for this rate of increase.
So I just have a kind of a general question on our vote and report. Are we also determining or giving a recommendation on the funding source? As you know, in addition to recommending the article for town meeting.
Yeah, so typically the funding source is handled in the motion, right? And typically that could be handled like right up to the town meeting. So-
Email? Let's not do that.
Well, so here's the thing that I'm thinking about, that we should, we should have a idea about the sources, and we should, and I don't know necessarily, I don't know how we do this, or if this is the right way to do it. I'm almost thinking that we should have a straw man vote for each funding source, to say, because depending on how it gets amended on the floor.
Are we gonna have to stand up and recommend the funding source?
So again, just kind of playing chess with what might happen on the floor. Like, so if someone decides, oh, let's use a combination of Burbank and, Burbank doesn't quite get you there, so use Burbank and the sale of property that gets you there. I think from our perspective, like or someone says, hey, let's just do it out of free cash. And then after Jeffrey, wakes up from the smelling salts that we're spending free cash, that, we decide not to do that. So I guess like for some parts of it, if there's something that we would feel as a committee that we would endorse more one way of this over another, then I think we should be prepared for that. Go ahead, Joe.
Mark, you're looking my way, but Mark raised his hand first, so.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
But the article is to do everything, not just phase one, not just, the infrastructure, it's to do both. That's what the article is, right?
And the motion shall be the following sources, blank, blank, and blank, or whatever, yeah, but the article.
Where's that?
Fidel emailed last night the motions. So there's a motion, if you go back to your email attachments, there's one with motions. So the motion under Article 14 it has a blank for the amount of dollars, and then it's blank for sources, but it lists, like you just said, all of the stuff. Did you get that?
I don't think so.
All right, I can, I'll forward it to you since I just opened the email.
So we need to vote on
This is.
the whole thing.
So, yeah, so Phil, do you have an opinion on
You
that?
sent me.
I'm not. It'd be great to get the funding.
He sent a few emails. I'm just forwarding you now the one with the
It'd
motions.
be great to get the
Thank you.
funding.
It's not clear.
I think I'm confused. Is there a way that we can have two separate discussions, or is it truly like yes or no, there can't be a medium? Like we couldn't say we vote yes on the infrastructure and here's how we propose to fund it and no on the other.
I mean, if I can be honestly frank, I thought that I was gonna go to select board and FinCom, and they would say, Fidel, you are using too much free cash, right? Or too much money. So I initially was leaning towards just doing the infrastructure only. Jenna went to recreation on Monday and presented this idea. And what she heard basically is that Birch Meadow has been on the docket for 10 years. We have been talking about Birch Meadow for a long time. Things are not going to get cheaper, right? And in fact, if we try to do this building a year from now, we might ruin what we just built, right? And it might be logistically, economies of scale are there. You got one construction site versus two construction sites. There were a lot of reasons. So what Recreation recommended is basically go to town meeting and ask for both. And if we don't get both, then it's up to town meeting.
Were you looking for suggestions about how to structure this conversation?
Well, I was actually cutting to, so I'm all in. I mean, again, because I've listened and I've heard this, and whether it's from ARPA or working backwards from ARPA all the way back to rec meetings to everything else and talking about Birch Meadow. This has been talked about, again, I haven't been around for, in this capacity for 10 years, but I can vouch for that. So I understand it as a community priority. And it's only been, there's been tons of off ramps along the way and we've stayed on course. So I'm cutting to the chase and more talking about, okay, well, if we're looking at infrastructure and building and we're talking about $1.2 million that needs to go to town meeting, I want us to now think about, well, where does that come from?
I have one question before I get there.
Sure.
I don't know if anyone else in the committee wants to go.
Go.
My only question about the building, I have some concerns about public safety, about having a bathroom on a high school campus that may not have cameras, that may be accessible to students during the school day. So my question is, has the school administration, the high school principal weighed in on this and said, yes, we are comfortable with this, and has public safety?
Yes.
They're all comfortable with this plan?
Absolutely. And we have heard a lot of, not having bathrooms in this area is an issue, right?
Yep.
And when we were offering to pull back the building, it came up. That's great, but bathrooms are an issue, right?
Where am I going to go?
My concern is that we build the building and then in a few years it becomes a safety issue and we just lock it up and it's almost never open. I don't want to do that. But if the appropriate people in the different constituencies have been consulted and they're on board, I'm fine.
And there are cameras in the building.
Oh, good. So security's been considered in the project. Thank you.
I mean, oh, sorry.
Coach.
We'll go with Joe C first and then Joe.
Yeah. So I think it sounds like maybe people saying their opinions is going to be good because that could get us, if we find we have all the same opinions, we're going to end up having a much simpler vote. I mean, it's not clear to me why we have a bunch of funding sources that are all in one way or another more restricted than free cash, but that all seem to me like they would be perfectly suitable for this. Two of them in particular, one has to do with more people coming to town, well, better recreation facilities. The other has to do with recreation, better recreation facilities. So like, I'm, I would be recommending some combination of the 40R incentive and Burbank Ice Arena. Those seem like the two most appropriate funding sources, and I don't care how much of which. I'm less keen on free cash because it's not clear to me like why we would do that when we have these other alternatives. So, but yeah, I mean, so we could recommend that, we recommend you do it. We recommend you don't do it with free cash. You do it with some of these other funding sources.
And so I think on that, and I'm sorry, Joe, just to answer Josie first, I think we might have to save that last bid.
Yeah.
Because that ends up being done on the floor, correct?
Yes.
Like as far as
As a motion, yes.
as a motion, as far as how you fund it. Right? Am I right? Did I hear that right?
We're coming with a motion with a proposal, but people are probably going to change that.
Yeah, so
We're not drawing the motion as far as the funding though.
in the motions document that I sent, we've got pretty much all the motions written except for that one. So that is the only remaining one. Typically, we would have draft motions to town meeting, right? And that's the packet that we have to everyone. It's the starting round, right? And absolutely, they are often changed from the floor.
But you're looking for this body tonight to give you that draft motion.
That would be great.
Okay.
Just clarify.
All right, no, okay, yeah.
Wasn't it with the water tower and lot 5 where we said where something would come from ARPA money? Well, we were giving sources back then.
Absolutely. We said our preferred funding source is this. Yeah, you're
So
right.
this is a little bit analogous.
It is. You're absolutely right.
Sorry, Julie.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm still back to like, first, I'm totally supportive of Birch Meadow projects, like I live near there and all that, right? I'm just like $500,000 a toilet, right? Like if cynics out there are gonna like say that, and if someone amends this, to say, okay, no, we'll do infrastructure only. How do we, to me, that changes my mind because it's like, okay, that's not a lot of money to find. Whereas like 1.2 is like a capital project to me. That seems like we're taking money out of these accounts and maybe we should just clear out these accounts, right? But I just think of 1.2 as
You
a
go to the next,
capital.
Jackie, can you go back to the next slide? Just, again, if you look at
Let's add them up.
the unspent amounts on the past projects, now you're only talking 440. If you're looking at both like what's left over for Parker, what's left over from the police department, now you're talking under 500 grand, and then, you know, those additional funding sources, I think makes this, you know, that makes everything more palatable. I mean, again, we're in a terrible situation. We wish it was better, but given all of this, and I think Joe, like, this doesn't seem all that, I mean, it will be controversial. I'm sure it will for the town meeting, but this doesn't seem like it should be.
People could be flush and say, oh, let's use all this and put lighting in and use free cash. You know, they could just say, if we're gonna put a path in, let's light
Marion,
it.
let's not give anybody any ideas. Not that anyone is watching us 3 hours in, but let's not give anyone any ideas.
Like you said, we don't know what they're gonna do.
Unspent in the 780,
Oh, that's a good
like
point.
when does, you know, I'm assuming it can't just sit around forever, and what other use is there?
With
for it?
Sharon said we have to use like
That's a good question for Sharon.
some of it.
Sharon, is there a timing that we have to spend the Parker and the police renovation money?
I think it must be multi-billion.
So when you borrow, there's an arbitrage issue where you have to spend so much within a certain time frame, and within 18 months, you should have pretty much spent the majority of the money. So yeah, I would probably recommend that we do something with this money because we did borrow it at a really low interest rate, so arbitrage is a concern.
Gotcha.
And what other capital projects are there? The parking lot,
Oh, there's lots.
You could do the glycol reclamation,
that's on capital.
isn't it? It's on the,
No, we could have, it's gotta be something that has equal or more life.
So what other uses is there?
I have a couple ideas, but I'm not gonna go there now.
I think that might be, like tonight, let's figure out this problem and then we can come back if there's extra money left and have that conversation.
Okay. Any other questions on?
Yeah, sorry, in terms of shovel ready, right, like we are ready to go. On
Okay.
we have.
So
we have contractors. And
So to Sharon's point, we wouldn't, be, you know, we're not in the, like, if we decided to do this, we're in scope as it relates to the 780.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We are ready to go, and if approved by town meeting, the construction would begin this summer. At some point, we got to coordinate with recreation and sports and all that stuff. But
Gotcha. Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, I want to propose an answer to Mark's question. Is there another project? Or I'll answer an adjacent question, which is there another project that is remotely comparable in terms of worth and importance and, you know, priority to the town and suitability for the use of the money and
And that's,
shovel readiness?
that's
And-
beyond the scope of this board.
Well, and the answer is no, there isn't one.
And I think the one thing about a lot of this, Mark, though, maybe not for the additional funding sources, but it seems like the biggest issue that we have to run into, given the unspent amount on past projects, is shovel ready. Like, so anything that you may pull in, like, you know, anything that you might do at a school, another roof or whatever, those aren't shovel ready. And so then you're now running past that timeframe.
Yeah, the only other thing would be if we had like another big water main break or something that where we had to come up with money that wasn't in the enterprise fund to fix, like an emergency.
I don't like when she does that either. I don't like when she does that either. It's jinxing. It's a jinx.
The only other thing I can think of is the field house, the floor and the stands we had talked about.
So Mark, when you asked the question, I'm
We have
like,
to put that up
we
to
should talk about the field house floor, but I'm not, that's why I bit my tongue.
But I don't know if there's anything else that could be
Yep,
done.
that's- yeah,
probably.
yeah,
good point.
Sorry.
Yep. All right, so anything else on 14? Oh, God,
Oh, I know. It's a quick one. It's an easy
sure
one.
it is.
Before we talk about funding sources of these three accounts, I just want to know, are there any other projects that have been talked about as like, I don't want to get to town meeting and say, oh, we propose you use this fund and have someone say, didn't we promise a year ago that we were going to use that money for X? So do you feel that this money is truly unencumbered and using for this purpose?
it hasn't been encumbered by a public body. I'll say that.
Good enough.
The only other thing that comes to mind is the potential senior center.
Not shovel ready.
No, it's shovel ready. All right, so then we're good on 14. Let's go to talk about 15.
we are talking about 15, hopefully it's not controversial. This is, Sharon did an amazing job scoring, scouring our accounts and finding money that has not been used. We found money from a previous project, $252,000 from Grove Street project, not related to Lot 5, that we're going to move to Gazebo Circle Pump Station. So essentially it is moving previously borrowed money to a new project.
Easy.
Easy. 16 is similar. We found, Sharon found, this one is going to be a little bit exciting, hopefully.
65,000.
Yes, $965,486. It is from two different projects. So it is from a two previous projects. Well, a previous project that both water and sewer projects. So we are moving them from basically funds that have been projects that have been already completed to the downtown water main project. And I am hoping that we have enough overage in this project to be able to pave some of the streets that have been ripped up. So
Wait, so you're gonna give 965,000 back to ARPA?
no, no, I'm not giving any money for it.
Thereby reducing the amount requested from ARPA, but not quite that amount.
Right.
But something's not gonna go back to ARPA.
We'll use the other money for something else, for sure, water and sewer.
Okay.
We got plenty of projects in water and sewer.
It's not controversial. All right, that sounds good. Any questions? Jeff, Bree, go ahead.
Struggling with is to transfer funds from the Main Street Water to what?
Sorry, we'll add this on the description. In the motion is a lot more more clear. So we're transferring a total of $965,000 to the downtown water main project. And one of the main reasons why we're transferring to that project is because we can't transfer it we cannot transfer it to a project that doesn't exist, right? So we're essentially cleaning up the accounts, moving it up to the most active project that we have right now, which is the downtown water main project.
So that should say to the Main Street.
And it does.
In the work, correct?
To the downtown water main project.
I'm reading the background, this
Oh, okay,
sentence
sure.
that says the purpose of this article is to transfer previously funds from the Main Street Water Project.
Oh, sorry, yes, so there was a lining project called Water Main Improvements Phase A that was on Main Street.
From this guy.
So that's a capital A, cleaning A, lining, like that's a proper name.
That is a proper name for
Okay,
the
and so
account. And it was on Main Street.
it's
So
Okay.
difficult to parse that sentence.
Similar is not the same as the downtown water main project that we have going on right now.
Put some quotes around it or capitalize it,
Yeah,
make sure that like, because otherwise,
The motion is much more clear.
The motion is a lot more straightforward, for sure.
17.
17 is so the MWRA has money available for us to borrow at no interest loans. We have $1,040,000 available. It's got to be used for sewer projects. And 75% of that money is grant. So we only pay 25% of that money. So we definitely want to take advantage of that.
This is every year, right?
Typically every year. Yep. Typically every year. Yep.
What's the term of paying the 20?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. 10 years, no interest. And then Article 18 is a cleanup article. We did Turf 2 even before Sharon went to borrow. We knew that we didn't need all the money that we got authorized. So we're just asking to reduce the authorization by $402,000. The project is done. It wasn't actually borrowed. It's more of an accounting cleanup.
And now we wish we had borrowed that 400,000 before the interest rates went up,
To pay for Birch Meadow.
for example. Oh, well.
Damn it, Sharon. Sounds good.
Sharon, you're a magician.
Great. All right, perfect. Now let's go back and do it all over again. We're done talking about
So we
it.
don't have to address the citizen
Article
article.
21 is
We did not have-
definitely.
FinCom doesn't have to, even though they seem to be requesting spending of money.
Yeah.
All right. So now we go back and now we gotta vote. All right.
So we would start with voting for Article 4, which is the change in
FY 23.
FY 20 is the 10-year capital plan. Yep.
Move to approve the subject matter of Article 4 as presented.
Recommend. Recommend.
You say recommend?
I said move to approve, move to recommend.
Thank you. It's after 10.
I
Move
got
to
you.
recommend. Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion? Any more discussion, I should say? Okay, call for vote. All those in favor? Passes 8-0. Let's, I'm gonna do these assignments as we go. Wow. Invite you for it. We'll give this one to Joe McDonough.
Keep going.
Yeah. let's keep-
Move to approve the subject matter of Article 5 as presented. Move to recommend
Jeez.
the subject matter of Article 5 as recommended.
Second,
Jackie, can you scroll that down to Article 5, please?
Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Mary Ann. Discussion on Article 5.
I'm, still worried about that free cash usage showing up without.
Guess who's gonna speak about this one, Jeffrey?
Thanks for volunteering.
All right. Any further discussion on Article 5? All right, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Passes 8-0. Think, Jeffrey, I mean, this is screaming for you to, and so the one thing I will say too, on all this, and again, whoever gets signed, it shakes out, one, that you want to be able to do something else, obviously let me know. And then two, if you want input or questions about that, you can funnel those back through me and I can help, for the FinCom report too.
Article 7,
7,
move to recommend the subject matter of Article 7 as presented.
I'm gonna go to Carnahan from now on.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Gene. Any discussion on Article 7? None appearing. Let's go to a vote. All those in favor? 8-0.
So much faster.
So much faster.
Is it Article 9?
Article 9.
Hold on, let me assign this one first. We'll give this to Mr. Zarro.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 9 as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Josie. Any discussion on Article 9?
We didn't even talk about
Darcy, did we talk about this one?
we didn't even talk about it tonight.
We
Oh,
did
this is the revolving fund.
Revolving
stuff.
Oh, yeah,
I think Fidel said there were no substantive changes to the previous years. It's just something we do every year.
No changes at all.
Perfect.
Something.
Of course, Joe. Of course, we're right in the part where you can ask a question. Discussion time.
Finally woke up to something. The town forest revolving fund, right? There's not much, what was it, like 10,000? In
Zero.
terms of like covering like the, like invasive species and all that good stuff, there's still money needed for that, right? So,
So
It says it's zero?
there's
No.
zero. I gotta pull up that page. Could you scroll down, Jackie, sorry?
It's a 10,000 limit, but there's zero in the fund.
Okay.
There, Cabin.
So it seems
Top Forest Dwelling Fund.
if you scroll down.
As of March 2023, there is zero in the budget. There's no money available,
I don't have.
no money there.
He's gonna have to put them up.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we don't have any money budgeted though for,
So we're gonna skip 12.
so what would be maybe it's a separate discussion, like it have to be funded someplace else. There's no because all the opera money will be gone too, so.
Yeah, the town forest is coming to do a presentation to a select board on Tuesday, if that helps.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about this.
Good, okay, yeah, because I think they need to do that stuff for the next couple of years, so. Right, thanks.
Any other questions, commentary on Article 9? Right, not appearing, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor? Perfect, 8-0. Joe Carnahan.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 10 as presented.
Who's it, 10?
It says we're doing a report. Affordable Housing Trust.
Yep.
What was 10?
Affordable Housing Trust, and same thing, we're waiting on pending legislation, so until that's
Oh,
passed,
right, okay,
we have
sorry.
to.
Maintain the status quo for the last 10 minutes of the
Exactly.
affordable housing trust fund.
Exactly.
Any discussion on 10? Any more discussion on 10? No appearing, go to vote. All those in favor? Did you raise your hand, Emily?
I vote.
Well, I need a motion first, right? Did you motion it?
No, she
did. She motioned in a second.
All right, sorry. Yep, sorry. So I voted.
All right.
Let's do it again, because I thought Emily didn't raise her hand. All those in favor?
I was too quick.
All right, thank you. 8-0.
I'm gonna leave it up there.
8-0. Mary Ann, you can have that, 10. Now we're on to, we're gonna skip 12. 'cause we're-
The question was 11,
Yeah.
the special education, we had talked about voting.
That's
Sorry.
right. No, I have that down here. I have already someone assigned to it. Yep. I'm fine with that. Article 11, let's go for
Move to
it.
recommend the subject matter of Article 11 as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion on 11?
Yeah, I agree with Gene that it does seem like a good idea for the school committee to have this.
Then you're gonna be the backup. All right, any other discussion? None appearing, let's go to a vote. All those in favor? 8-0.
Quick point of privilege, thank you for tolerating that. I like that we are supporting the schools committee in this way. Thank you.
You don't get, like, Jackie, just try to extract that from the minutes. Okay, so Gene, you have that one.
Uh-huh.
All right, we're gonna skip 12 and do that at the end because it's tedious.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 13.
Second.
So thanks, Joe. I keep forgetting the seconds. Any discussion on 13? I'm looking at you, Joe McDonough. Okay, just making sure. All right, good. None appearing. We'll go to the vote. All those in favor? 8-0. I gotta take that one, right? Because Emily, what's the next one?
Sure do.
Are we on 14?
We are on 14.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 14.
Oh, wow, Emily, you didn't even get a chance to finish it.
Only when I care about.
We did not find a funding source.
Well, we can vote on the vote on the substance of the article, and then we can vote on the.
All right, so we're gonna spend a little time on 14. So we'll Joe's right. Let's do our, actually, do we have the actual motion? Like do we have the
It's a
one that?
motion, but then we need that thing from the PowerPoint
Yeah.
too to remember.
Could you pull up the PowerPoint, Jackie? And go to the last slide, slide
So let's-
7.
We have two side by side.
Yeah, let's just table that for a second, because I
The
want to
motion
make,
there's two decision points. One is how much we're asking town meeting to move to, right? And then obviously, the draft motion is going to include the entire amount. And then on the back end of the motion is where it's coming from, right? So
We have to decide.
I think that for sure it will come from two sources, Parker Roof and police station. I think it would be helpful to get feedback on the additional potential funding source.
The 440.
But we have to back up and say, do we support infrastructure only or infrastructure and building? We have to recommend one of those.
I think we've been presented with infrastructure and building. So if we say yes to that,
I think we give the funding vote for each one, if, you know what I mean? So like
Oh, to cover
infrastructure,
town
if
meeting,
it's
yeah.
infrastructure only, we say to fund it with whatever. If it's infrastructure and building, then this would be our recommendation.
it's fair.
I'm fine.
So, Jackie, can you go to the next slide just for a second?
We're not.
All right, so, just because I'm using this one, so if it's, just to be able to play this out, and again, I may be just, kind of splitting hairs here, but if we said it's infrastructure only,
So for the infrastructure.
if it's infrastructure only, the town meeting request is only for $212,000. If we say for infrastructure and building that we would fund it based on the unspent past projects and then other sources, if we say that, then aren't we already covered for infrastructure only?
You're completely right. If someone on town meeting wants to say, I don't agree with FinCom's recommendation, I only want to do, they can do that. But you're right, if the agreement among the group is to fund both, we only have to do that. You're totally right, Ed.
Yeah, so if we say we're gonna, like, if we take the biggest one and say, we recommend that one, and this is how we fund it, if they pare it back, and we could, in essence, we could say unspent past projects, and then whatever we want to choose to make up the 440, or well, to make up the 1.22 is 780, and another 440 from something else. At that point, we're covered because we covered the top line. And anything
Well,
that's
somebody
pared back.
could say, well, would FinCom, if FinCom spent to send some from here and some from here, if we're only doing the infrastructure, use the 40R, right?
But you're
But I
also,
think we want to
But the
say,
other stuff is a time limit on it.
yeah.
so
We use
so
the
we
time
should
limit
vote
for-
to do that one first, right?
Well, I think that's, what I think our recommendation would be is there is an order of funding sources. We recommend that we start with past projects and then
Okay.
One of
as
those
long as
becomes
one of the other
clear
ones.
that there's an
Do
order.
you know what I mean? So there's an order to it, then if we get rolled back, it's still the same order.
I actually agree. I think ideally, Finance Committee gives one recommendation to town meeting, this is our recommendation, and then they do what they want with that. They can
But it needs to be
do,
clear.
you know.
But it's a nice, the ordered list is a nice recommendation.
Agree
It's a
completely.
very helpful recommendation
Yep.
for them because then they know what to do if they want to spend less.
Yeah, totally.
This is on you, Emily.
I am so ready for this.
What do you support, actually, just so?
We all know what I support.
We're gonna need you in case for this one. All right, so maybe, so,
10 years.
as a, so do we need multiple motions? Or how do we do this?
I'm comfortable voting for the entire project. I think you almost need to ask the committee how they feel. Like, I'm comfortable voting
All
for
right, well,
both.
let's do this, let's do this.
Move to recommend.
Let's recommend the full Magilla. Let's do that one, and then we'll see how we vote. And then if we vote, however we vote there, then we may not need to do the second one.
It's true. Yeah, we might not.
We might not, but let's do that. All right, let's start there. That Jeffrey's got a good point there.
I forgot the article number.
14.
14.
You made a motion.
Oh, I did.
Let's do it again. We want to play the tape.
It actually says that
With the
we
funding,
Yeah, because we want to talk about exactly what.
doing the full addition.
Are we taking two votes? Are we taking one vote? Yes, we approve this, and then a second vote on the prioritization of funding, or are we doing this all in one?
I say two, because I can't remember
agree.
I don't think I can do it all in one.
All right,
But I
so
think we need to have a motion that says we recommend the full infrastructure plus building.
yes.
Yep.
So move to recommend the subject matter of Article 14 as presented, which, to be clear, includes both projects, infrastructure and the building.
Seconded by Emily.
They didn't say it.
I know.
Okay.
10 years.
10 years.
So this is for infra and building. Okay, any other discussion?
It says including but not limited to the reconstruction of Imagination Station. Wait, are we in our playground that? That's what it says to me.
That's not what Imagination Station sounds to me. But
We need to have like XX, whatever the number is, Birch Meadow Drive.
yeah, 25 first.
All right, let's
The artist formerly known as.
Yeah.
let's move this to a vote.
It's led to a lot of confusion. People think there's going to be also a playground.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
But isn't it defined as phase one?
This is phase one.
Yeah, so that's,
It doesn't say that in the article.
No.
Motion.
It says it in the motion.
It doesn't say parking lot in the motion.
I will change that. I wrote
Please
it.
do, please do.
The intent was when I said Imagination Station was for the parking lot. But
Yeah, I think,
The feelings around.
yes, there are
I bumped
opportunities.
my head on that imagination station many times, chasing my children around.
I will change it to parking lot.
Any other discussion on this part of 14? All right, not appearing. All those in favor? 8-0. All right, here we go for that. All right.
Don't worry.
So now we are on to
Funding source.
funding sources for the infrastructure and building.
I'm going to start by saying the first priority should be the 440 remaining from those two projects.
No, it's the other way around. 7.
First priority should be unspent.
780, the unspent amount from the former project, 780. It's just throwing that out
You
there.
don't have to
Yes.
prioritize
Within
within that,
consensus.
just call it on the unspent.
The same.
That's already been put out to borrow, it's time limited.
Yes, yeah.
should we have in the motion that it's got a time limit to it?
I can add that to my color.
You can explain
Yeah,
it,
that can be
yeah.
explained, was why.
You might want
why
to get
do
it
we-
from
why do we
Sharon,
prioritize?
what the time is on
Yeah,
that too.
for sure.
Number 1 is unspent.
I like the sale of the real estate fund. It's recent money that's just come in. It's an improvement to the overall town. My second choice is the 40R because it's such a large balance.
Just 40R.
Okay.
40R was, Burbank is free cash is, I'm gonna go back to front. Free cash is the last thing I want to touch. Burbank,
No need to.
Burbank would be fine if it would covered it. I don't want to have to, like, if we have something that covers the 440, I'd rather just do that and leave. I mean, you could take some money out of Burbank if you wanted to, but
I
that's
agree
just
with
that, and so I would, and I think maybe it's just balance wise, you're still left with a healthy balance in 40R if you take it from 40R. That's at least, one man's opinion.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm good with that. too.
Can I just ask, so the sale of real estate account, there's no clock ticking on that, and we can use that for whatever we want forever in the town?
But town meeting approval.
But 40R has to be spent on capital.
Has to be.
So to me, between the potential, 40R is more appropriate.
Absolutely.
And because sale of real estate is much more open-ended, we could use it to supplement the budget
As
as
is
an
Burbank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, good point.
Which is exactly what I said. Perfect. That's awesome,
I
man.
found you very persuasive.
Very good. Very good. I just went with big balance. That sounds good.
Okay, are we ready for me to make a motion?
40R.
Yeah, let's
That
make a
felt
motion.
like consensus.
I mean, strictly speaking, we don't need to make an order between the sale of real estate and Burbank. Do we just not mention them? Do we just,
Agree.
Yeah.
okay, we only mentioned some funding sources up to cover the amount the town meetings may ask for. We don't need to make recommendations beyond that point.
I
We don't even need to mention free cash exists.
If we tell them that
I
there's
agree.
more funding sources, that opens a lot.
No, and I think,
Don't give them any ideas.
And anybody?
no, and I think we should say no use, not using free cash
Yeah.
funds. Have that in the motion.
Okay, just one little point though. The thing about Burbank, to me, it's just like another account, another reserve fund that we have out there. We just have like all these little pots of money. I'd like to just wipe it out and use it,
But you'd have
for
to use that
recreation.
something else.
Yes, but that's just like, that's just little accounting.
Well,
I don't know.
That might be an agenda, I think that's an agenda item for another day is to.
But it might be
Over the
things other
summer,
than
it
capital that
should
we
be.
might need them for.
I do want to respond to Joe's thing because I think that my understanding is that this is the money is added to this every year. It's a variable amount based on how much capital spending Burbank needs to do on their building. But so I would agree with you if this was like a leftover thing, a fund that was just sitting there, and we can just close this account out,
Yeah.
clear it out, and then there's just one less thing for us to debate about at 10:30 at night 2 years from now. But it's going to be there again next year, just with a small balance. And so in that case, that makes me sympathetic with Ed's and several other people's thing of like, let's pick the biggest one. As well as Marianne's point about, let's take the capital.
The capital only one. That's true, that's the best. It is the most encumbered.
It is, it actually,
So do
it does,
that. Yes,
it
good point.
make a lot more sense there.
That's the best reason.
I was
And we
lucky.
won't even use all of it up either.
Yep.
Because we're using the time limited ones first, so there still would be money if some other project went over budget, which with construction being what it is, it's probably gonna happen.
Ready for a motion?
I am.
Move to recommend to town meeting the funding sources for Article 14 as followed. The first priority is to use unspent money from the Parker Middle School roof and police department renovation projects, and any remaining balance to be made up from the 40R incentive account.
With no use of free cash.
I actually don't think the article should tell you what not to use. The article should be what we recommend.
Yeah.
But in the color,
You can
for
say
sure. In the color, for sure.
Everyone's got that. Got a second?
Second.
Ms. Emily? Any other discussion? All right, none appearing. I'll go to a vote. All those in favor? 8-0. Well done. That was nice. All right, so we're on to 15.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 15 as presented.
Thanks, Mark. Any discussion on 15?
So this one's a sewer project, right?
Pump station.
Pump station or
Yeah.
oh,
This is moving from a previous project, Grove Street.
So my question is, if it's sewer related and we had this whole MWRA interest-free loans, is this borrowed from something else where we're paying interest and we should use?
This money we borrowed a long time ago, and it is just sitting there.
So we should just use it, even though we have this other funding that we could get from MWRA, zero interest.
Which is
Go
new
ahead.
money to work to.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
This, the project, Grove Street was completed a long time ago, and we should really be kind of cleaning those up.
Okay.
I think it's water, not sewer. Not the,
Okay.
It does not change our recommendation.
Any other discussion on 15? Not appearing. Let's go to a vote. All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend the subject.
Back to Joe McDonough.
All right.
We're gonna sign it. Yep, we're good. Joe McDonough, you got this one too. We're back to the start. All right, sorry, Jean, go ahead.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 16 as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion on 16? Not appearing. Go to a vote. All those in favor? 8-0. Jeffrey, you have this one?
16.
16, yes. Yes, sir.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 17 as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion on 17? Not appearing. Little vote. All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 18. Move to recommend the subject matter of Article 18 as presented. Sorry, it's just really getting late.
Second.
We didn't discuss this though, right? But it doesn't matter.
We did briefly. We
We
did.
did
Briefly.
Briefly, yeah.
It's just
So
not that
fast.
interesting.
So far.
I should have borrowed this extra money at the low end.
Oh, yeah, this is
I'm pretty sure I'm next.
yes, this is housekeeping. Yep, okay. Any other discussion on 18? Not appearing. All those in favor? Perfect, 8-0. And you are right, Joe Carnahan. You do have this one.
Is that it except for the budget?
Oh, back to friggin' budget. Oh my God, I thought we were done. Holy smokes. All right, Article 12.
We don't have to talk about the late fee for dog owners, because that's, even though that's money coming to the
All right, so we
town.
need to,
I'd like to take that.
can we get the scorecard up so we can just go line by line?
I don't have it in front of me. So
Yeah,
you
we-
can put something on the screen.
Check it on.
And Jackie, can you enlarge that?
Oh,
and just-
so much bigger.
And then just, we really only care about column A.
Page 19 rather.
Can you give me one more on that?
Yeah, we need A through J.
We need A and G. Right?
Okay. I and J are.
We're voting on the number in column G,
Yes.
and we have to say move to approve the amount on line B99.
Yes.
Is that okay?
That's perfect, Jackie. Well, at least for me, my old eyes.
Do you want me to fly through them just to? Okay, I'm gonna ask the rest of the committee. I think I have good vision on this, but if I misspeak or misread, somebody yell.
We're
So-
checking. I see number differences in what is printed. I assume what we're looking at is the most up-to-date information.
Yeah, actually, Jackie, Sharon just emailed a new spending scorecard. Is that the one that you?
This is the correct one.
Oh, so it's in our email?
If
I
I,
had to change the capital because of the changes we
Yep,
made
yep.
today, different to 25,000.
Yep, I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right stuff.
I
I will forward it to everybody now.
was gonna say,
I was gonna say, did I get it?
I didn't.
No, none of us have it, I don't think.
Now I'll make sure that Joe.
Just get that out.
I can read from my screen, that's gonna go a lot better.
No, we don't, Joe. Yeah.
She's,
The capital?
Yeah, it was 2963 and now it's 2938.
No.
Maybe I just got it.
Everything else looks same-ish.
I think she sent it to me. Oh, yeah, I think you're on it too.
Did my Wi-Fi go down?
I have a vague sense that one year, when we buzzed through this, Gene, we just said move to approve the number on line 99 as presented. And we didn't try to read
Oh,
the
just
actual
came in.
number.
I got it from
I
Val, thank
just
you.
got it.
Oh, this is so much better.
I agree with what Jeffrey said. This, you don't have to read the amount, just
I think you just say
say the line item, yeah.
move to approve the amount on line 99 as shown in the spending scorecard.
For real?
For
Yeah,
real.
that's it.
FinCom was not that way when I was on my first guard duty.
I think we did it last
I
year.
love that, love it. Okay, is everybody ready? Mr. Chair?
We're all here.
Absolutely.
So I'm actually unclear on the language. Move to approve the,
Recommend,
Thank you
sorry,
all.
I said
move to recommend
the amount.
FY 2024 budget line item this as presented. Is that the right kind of terminology?
As shown. I guess
Okay.
that's the-
Perfect. Move to recommend FY 2024 budget line B99 as shown.
Second.
Ms. Jeffrey?
What Jeffrey did. I got my moment in the sun.
Any discussion on B99? Not appearing, go to a vote, all those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line C99 as shown.
Second,
Joe? Any discussion? Not appearing, all those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line D99 as shown.
second,
Joe? All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line E99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line F99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line G91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
Move to recommend line G92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
This is really good TV for anyone at home.
8-0.
Move to recommend.
There's no one watching. There's no one watching.
Move to recommend line G91A as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line G92A as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
Move to recommend line H91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line H92 as shown.
second.
All those in favor?
Can I just pause 1 second? Why is G91A after G92? Is that the right way? I mean,
Then
doesn't
it
matter,
has to do with the
but
department reorg.
Yeah,
It's because the reorg.
yeah, the reorganization, that's right. Technology department is a new department. So which is an offset of administrative services.
I might have lost my place.
H92,
We did H92.
We did 92A, but I don't remember anything after that.
H92 is what
We did
we did.
H92.
We did do H92?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
No, I'm sorry, you only got through, G92, you haven't gotten to H yet.
I have H91 and
I think
H92.
she's right.
Oh, no, it's not you, I'm sorry.
I wrote it down. I got
No, I have it written down. I have it written down. We did H91, H92.
I seconded H92.
That's the confusion, because they're both 9.
Jackie, you sure? Because I have written down H91 and H92.
Nope, you are right, H91 and H92, I'm sorry.
All right.
Don't mess with this chair. 2011.
1040.
all right. Are we on I-91?
Yes.
Move to recommend line I-91 as shown.
Second,
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line I-92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line J91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line J92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
Move to recommend line K91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line K92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line K93 as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
Move to recommend line K94 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line K95 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line L91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line L92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line M91 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line M92 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line U99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line W99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor?
Move to recommend line X99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line Y99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line Z99 as shown.
second,
All those in favor? 8-0.
Move to recommend line ZZ9 as shown.
second.
All those in favor? 8-0.
Joe, we're a good team.
Got some minutes to do before we adjourn.
I don't think you have
I
minutes.
get this one?
Marion gets 12. Luckily, you don't have to talk about every line item, Marion.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I
Yep.
could see I was next to the list, okay.
I mean, there's no minutes, right, Ms. Jackie?
There are not any minutes, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Hell no, Jackie, don't apologize. So the only thing, and this is just we'll spend like a minute on it. So for my state of like kind of financial report, if, we don't have to do this now, but like, if any of you have ideas on items that you would like, or you think we should highlight, just send me an email, with ideas on
And do you have like an outline?
just one to one you can do, right? Yeah, just don't send it to everybody. You can send
Yeah,
me
you
an
can
open.
send some that
Okay.
you said.
And do you have like an outline of what you?
I have actually something, I'll send you, because I have it in the Fidelis already sent it to me, resend it to
I'll do
me.
it
Oh, yeah, you said it. He'll send you what I did last year.
All right.
Yeah, last year.
Just trying to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Yep, that's what I did last year, and then if you have ideas around that, just don't reply all, send me, kind of one email with ideas, and then I can incorporate it. When do I need to have that done?
10:45,
Perfect.
to the end of March, does that work?
Oh, it's fine, yep, totally.
2 more weeks?
I just want to make sure I give folks time to be able to send me something, but
It goes in the warrant, book.
yeah, and so, and again, the other thing too, so I'll probably, what's it, today's the 16th? 15th.
It's almost the 16th.
Yeah, it's almost 16th. So I'll give everyone a week. You can send it to me and no obligation. If you don't want to send me, if you don't have anything to send, that's totally fine too.
So we don't need our meeting next week.
No, I asked Gene if we should have done it, but now we don't need to plow through everything. We're here at 10:45, so we do not need the meeting next week.
When is our next meeting? It will be after town meeting, or do we have?
Well, I
anything
think the only thing that we should save, we might have to meet the
night of?
night of. We might have to meet the night of early, just in case. But outside of that, I don't think we have anything until after town meeting.
Good job, Ed.
Excellent. All right. So I think we're good. Dean, I'll take a motion.
Move to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor? Me too. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. We're adjourned.
So we